My provider is the main god. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201 Transactions in the Kremlin. To be honest, this is the first time Tang Yuan has come to this place, no matter which world he's in. Looking at this huge building that has been the capital of Russia since ancient times, he couldn't help sighing. The one on the roof really looks like an onion. He was not bad, just sighed in his heart. Lin Xiaoyu was quiet beside him. Ji Luo also pulled his clothes and looked very quiet, but Li Yun. Look, boss, the roof looks like an onion. Immediately, Makarov and the security guards who accompanied him became embarrassed. It's okay, if the scene is too embarrassing. Tang Yuan also has his own unique trick to prevent the cold scene. Duong Mom. Shut up, silly fox, no one will think you are mentally retarded if you don't speak. Well, you see, the atmosphere suddenly became lively, didn't it? There is a cheerful air both inside and outside the Kremlin. Makarov led the crowd all the way to the door of the Prime Minister's office, then he signaled the crowd to wait first, then walked to the door and knocked lightly. Come in. Only then did he lead a few people to open the door and enter the office. As soon as Tang Yuan entered the door, he saw Kyukov wearing clothes that looked like both a suit and a military uniform. His chest was still the same as before, with a dazzling array of various patterns. All kinds of medals hang up like bulletproof vests. This guy has become the prime minister now. Why does he still have the habit of wearing medals? Question mark. Yo, cough, sorry, let me be more serious. Long time no see, Comrade Kyukov. Tang Yuan originally wanted to say hello with a signature yo, but after thinking about it, he decided to forget it, managed to squeeze out a serious face, and bowed his head slightly towards Kyukov. Well, hello, Comrade Tang Yuan. The two looked at each other for a moment without speaking, and the office fell silent for a while. 1, 2, 3. You speak first. You speak first. Then the two guys spoke at the same time, as if they had made an appointment in advance. Okay, let me talk first. Tang Yuan coughed dryly, and waved his hands behind his buttocks to conjure up a golden transparent chair. He sat on it and shook his legs. It's not easy these days, right? People all over the country thought your government being controlled by aliens. It's okay if you don't listen to him, but when Kyukov heard him say that, his old face became tangled up. Did you do it on purpose? How could it be intentional? Tang Yuan spread his hands exaggeratedly. I came here today with sincerity. Do you want to call your finance minister? Or can you take full responsibility for this? What do you mean? Kyukov couldn't accept his leaping thinking. You asked me to come here, isn't it just to give an explanation to the next one? Tang Yuan said, I'm here, didn't Brother Ma tell you? About alien technology. Meow meow. Kyukov looked at Brother Ma with a confused expression. Did you tell me? Brother Xiao Ma looked at Kyukov and then at Tang Yuan, and slapped his head suddenly. Ah. Damn, I forgot. Go to the corner, stand for punishment, and when I remember that you are standing there, I will let you go. Kyukov pointed at Makarov with a twitching corner of his mouth, and waved in the direction of the corner waved. Makarov ran to the corner in desperation, doubting his life. Only then did Kyukov look at Tang Yuan. So what did he want to tell me? Are you aliens? Which planet are you from? Mars? Uranus? Tabajan? WTF 666? You from the stars come to us. What is this Earth up to? Stop. When did I say I'm an alien? Tang Yuan shook his head dumbfounded. I mean, we once found a crashed alien spaceship and got a lot of useful things from it. Technology, like space expansion technology, large-scale 3D printing technology, controllable nuclear fusion, and so on. Oh, it's very interesting. Kyukov nodded, non-committal, but judging by his expression, he didn't believe it. Really? That's a real alien spaceship. It's not the kind of UFO that burns diesel. Tang Yuan felt that he had lived for decades, and his other skills hadn't improved, but his ability to fool people was getting better and better. Otherwise, how do you think I'm going to explain my special effects? Do I just say, the sky is dead, Wang Bian should stand, and then I comb a 357 pointed Patrick hairstyle, carry a tin rod, and suddenly being possessed by a god is like being helped by a god, right? That's fine. If you want me to explain it this way, I'm actually a god who came down from the sky to travel, and that golden giant is actually my true self. Do you believe it? Okay, alien spacecraft. And then Kyukov thought for a while and felt that his IQ could still be rescued, so he chose to believe the previous reason. Then why are you telling me this? I just want to ask if you can calm down the idiots below and stop being suspicious all day long. Sell it to you. What? Kyukov said that he had a problem with his ears when he was old, and he couldn't understand what Tang Yuan said. Sell it to me? Sell it for what? Tang Yuan flipped the hem of his clothes to the side, and reached out to find a pile of blueprints. Because there is no Einstein in this new world, there is no technology related to atomic theory, at least no nuclear weapons or nuclear energy. But you are from the old world, you should be able to understand what I mean by controlled nuclear fusion technology. Nuclear power plant. As soon as Kyukov heard the word nuclear, he remembered things about the old world again. That's right, and it's different from previous nuclear power plants. The so-called controllable nuclear fusion means that the process of nuclear fusion can be completely controlled by humans. It can be turned on and off as you like. The safety level has more than doubled, and the raw materials it will also become very easy to obtain. Heavy water is a good thing. It can be extracted directly from seawater. How much seawater is there on Earth? Who would want to use dangerous uranium and plutonium? Kyukov immediately became interested. Controllable nuclear fusion is a technology that is equivalent to infinitely close to infinite energy. Although Zelensky is a genius who can research a time machine, he has a specialization in technology, and he has no way to restore it. Nuclear fusion technology. So the energy problem has always been a huge bottleneck for the continued development of the Soviet Union. I believe you have already thought of it. That's right, my golden giant is actually a huge robot made of special materials, and I stored it in the space folding device. Do you want me to release it for you to see? No, 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 no. No need. Kyukov waved his hands again and again. Are you kidding me? How can there be such a big place for you to let that thing out? Question mark. Oh, forget it. So, if I say that I want to sell these technologies to the Soviet Union, do you want it? Tang Yuan put on a perfect salesman smile, which made people look like a spring breeze. Buy, buy, buy. Kyukov slammed the table and yelled, choose your hands after you buy them. Let's talk about chopping your hands after you buy them. You can set a price. That's okay, you still have to call the Minister of Finance, and we'll discuss it slowly. Tang Yuan smiled and sat across from Kyukov's desk. The price is negotiable, mainly because I have other small conditions. Well, it's about the Golden Dragon Nation. I hope that the Soviet Union can develop friendship with the Golden Dragon Nation, and help each other in harmony. I hope you can agree to my request on behalf of the Soviet Union. No problem. Kyukov agreed without thinking too much. Anyway, generally speaking, as long as everyone knows, the so-called non-aggression is only because there is no conflict of interest. It's time. Can Tang Yuan control such a big Soviet Union by himself? As a result, when he agreed, he had a lot of fun. Click, the familiar voice of the cash register sounded. The smile on Tang Yuan's face looked like a vixen's, and he said quietly, the first condition has been satisfied. As for the second condition, let's discuss the price slowly later. Why did he specifically emphasize the phrase on behalf of the Soviet Union when he told Kyukov about this? Because if this is added, as long as Kyukov agrees to Tang Yuan's conditions, then it will no longer be Kyukov is friendly to the Golden Dragon Kingdom, but the Soviet Union is friendly to the Golden Dragon Kingdom. The meaning of this is obvious. Well, if the content of the agreement is only aimed at Kyukov alone, it is true that he will stop thinking about fighting the Golden Dragon Kingdom in his life, but in case Kyukov steps down when he gets old, the new Prime Minister is a, year-old boy who wants to fight the Golden Dragon Kingdom. What about Jinlong Kingdom? So Tang Yuan specifically emphasized the phrase representing the Soviet Union when he was speaking. In this way, Kyukov agreed to his terms, which means that the entire Soviet Union will always abide by this agreement. No matter how many prime ministers change, even if the Soviet Union a coup took place, and the prime minister became the president, the parliament, the senate, and even the czar. As long as the country remains unchanged, even if the name is changed, it will still be bound by this agreement, unless the Soviet Union disintegrates. The judgment conditions are quite mysterious. It can only be understood but cannot be expressed in words. As soon as Tang Yuan heard that Kyukov agreed to this condition, he felt relieved. His biggest goal of this trip has been achieved. To be continued. Chapter 202 Chapter Return. Secondary Void. Tang Yuan played a good role in the world of the Red Police, and returned with a full reward. Now he finally drove the tyrant out of midair and landed on the ground. Immediately, Zalubia's curses came from the small building next to her. Can CNM keep a low profile? I just stayed up all night just now, and now I finally caught up with sleep, just fell asleep. Tang Yuan opened the hatch of the spaceship, jumped off the spaceship, smiled and waved towards the second floor of her small building and shouted, "Sorry, next time I will install a buffer device on the tyrant. Do you want to shout?" Question mark. This time it was mainly because the AI guy drove too wildly, and was a bit rude when he landed. Immediately, Zalubia jumped out from the window on the second floor. She was still in her pajamas and came to Tang Yuan. Which mental retardation is disturbing the people? Why did you come back so soon? It was agreed to be a month, but it turned out to be exactly 1 month? Why don't you play there for a few more days? Then you have to have fun. Tang Yuan smiled and stretched out his hand to rub her head. What's the fun after the war? I also stayed on the moon and flirted with Tonya for several days' time, or you will be bored to death. Hey, where's the stuff? Sylvia asked, bouncing up and down in front of him. Here I am. How could I forget the most important thing? Tang Yuan smiled and lifted up the watch, pressed a button on it, and then the entire screen of the watch clicked like a cover when it was opened. There was a small rectangular transparent object inside, about the size of a finger. He pulled out the small transparent strip and shook it in front of Zalubia. Is this it? Esha said. However, although the resources of the wills of your other generations are unlimited, the power is also limited. So this thing is also useful to you. How about it? I will help you collect some in the future. Forget it then. Sylvia looked at the small transparent strip in his hand and shook her head. We have a relatively peaceful attitude towards things like resources and power. According to you, we are not so eager. If I have to trouble you to make a few more trips just to get such a little power, I am not willing. Oh, thank you, old girl. Tang Yuan rubbed the top of her head, and put the little transparent strip into his pocket. At this time, other people also got off the spaceship. First of all, Lin Xiao's group. They came here once, so they ran straight towards Zalubia after getting off the spaceship. The smile on their faces looked like they just came back from a spring outing. Then there are Yequin and Beihizi. These two sisters have fully shown Tang Yuan what Lily's beauty is in the past few days. They are stuck together all day long, eating, sleeping and going to the toilet together. They are inseparable. Whenever Tang Yuan saw them, he felt as if his entire field of vision had been purified. There were a large number of lilies blooming on both sides of the screen, and the 16:9 field of vision was literally blurred, squeezed into 4:3. As soon as the two sisters got off the spaceship, they showed surprised expressions in perfect sync, and then maintained a unified rhythm, using exactly the same movements, looking around. Sister, sister, it looks so strange here. Sister, sister, it looks strange here. This is the hometown of the president. This is the hometown of the president. Tang Yuan saw the two sisters acting cute there with sweat on his forehead, and couldn't help asking, so can you change the name you call me? President or something? I always feel like I am a formal company here, but you were the first to tell us that we are your employees from today. Yuriko glanced at him and replied. Since you have said that we are your employees, isn't it normal to call you the president? Yaquan also glanced at him and replied. Why can't you call me the boss like Liu Yun and Jiluo? Tang Yuan rubbed his forehead, always feeling a little headache. The title boss always sounds very rude. Yuriko said. The title president sounds better. Yaquan also said. There must be something wrong with these two sisters, and why, no matter what they say, these two guys have the same number of words. Question mark. Even twins who are real sisters can't do this. Question mark. Tang Yuan looked at the sisters with the same movements and expressions a little frantically. When he was looking at them, they both turned their heads towards him by the same degree, and blinked at the same speed blink. Going crazy, this is really going crazy. Tang Yuan slapped himself, stopped looking at the two magical girls, and turned his gaze to the cabin door of the tyrant. Hey! Are you going to get down or not? Right now, right now. The voice of a blonde sister with two guns came from the corner of the cabin door. Speaking of Tanya, Tang Yuan really felt helpless. Natasha just stuffed him with a burden. It's not good to get rid of it, and it feels light to carry it. Just a few days ago, Tanya was brought to the moon by him, and then Tang Yuan loosened her handcuffs. Just as he was about to speak, this guy kicked him in the face. Immediately after Tang Yuan didn't do anything, she broke her right calf with a crack, lying on the ground and screaming. At that time, Tang Yuan squatted down to discuss with her with a troubled face, and said, help her heal her leg, and as a price, she must obey the order. How could Tanya know the consequences of casually agreeing on terms in front of Tang Yuan? At that time, she was in so much pain that she wanted to gnash her teeth. How could she have the time to understand what this guy meant? Immediately nod. And then, that's it. Tang Yuan briefly recalled the process of negotiating conditions with Tanya at that time, and then watched Tanya get off the spaceship step by step. Hurry up. Are you shy of life or something? He urged angrily. Hey, yes, boss. Oh no, yes, boss. Tanya immediately stood up straight and answered loudly, then slipped on the sole of her foot, and the whole person babbled and walked along the slope in front of the cabin door. The ladder rolls down. As for the American hero who saved the world, Tang Yuan feels that he should also be responsible for this, because he still remembers the few orders he gave Tanya. First command, tell me how old you are. Tanya replied, 29 years and 15 months. Oh, it's 3 years old. No. Only 29 years old. Then it's up to you. The second order, when you are in front of me, please be quiet. Don't let me hear your mocking expression there again, do you hear me? Alice? Yes. So I don't know where the elder sister made a mistake, and what Tang Yuan said about being gentle and quiet was understood. Now as long as she is in front of Tang Yuan, this elder sister is as timid as a big girl with yellow flowers. Talking in a soft voice, I am embarrassed to walk even a little bit longer. Tang Yuan felt that this elder sister was ruined by him, but he was afraid that if he ordered her to change her personality, she would change into an even weirder state, so he let her go. Above, seeing this big sister rolling down from the spaceship now, Tang Yuan seems to feel that the goddess of his childhood has left him forever, although the second generation Tanya and the third generation Tanya are still the same in terms of plot. In terms of actors, they are not the same person, huh? In this case, why is this guy counted as a childhood goddess? Shouldn't the goddess be the second generation Tanya? Lin Xiaoyu stepped forward to help Tanya up, and then saw Tang Yuan was alone there thinking about something. The more he thought about it, the darker his face became, and he didn't understand what mess he was thinking of. Zilubia looked at Tang Yuan alone there, distracted, and quietly asked Lin Xiaoyu, brother, what's wrong with him? Are you okay? Lin Xiaoyu waved her hand, it's okay, it's okay. That dead ghost often behaves like this. It's just intermittent dementia attacks, let's drag him up and go directly to the hospital. To be continued. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203 The Old Driver Takes Me. Go to the hospital? Let's not be busy now. It's just after 11 o'clock. Shall we have a meal first? Zilubia's proposal immediately received unanimous praise from everyone, so a group of people rushed into her small building. As soon as he entered the door, Tang Yuan smelled a scent coming from the direction of the kitchen. He sniffled, took a deep breath on the spot, and asked Zilubia, what are you cooking? It smells so bad. She smiled, me? I don't have that ability. It's a friend of mine. You should know each other. You saw it on TV a while ago. Television. Tang Yuan couldn't remember when this happened, so he quietly ran to the kitchen to see who was cooking. Lin Xiaoyu also expressed his interest and followed him to the kitchen door. Zilubia's kitchen is a very ordinary style. The space of, square meters will not make people feel cramped, and there are 4 gas stoves and an induction cooker integrated with a stove on the long stove. There are 2 sinks that are a little bit big. Generally speaking, there is no eye-catching configuration. But, in the kitchen at this time, there is a beautiful figure dancing crazily with the ingredients. What a murderous culinary technique. This person obviously only has 2 hands, but he can cut vegetables at the speed of light calmly. He also turns around from time to time, grabs the spatula and scrapes in the pot a few times, then runs to the trash can to process the ingredients at the speed of light, and then runs again go to the sink to wash the vegetables, then run to the cutting board to continue chopping vegetables at the speed of light. There is really no one who can't practice for hundreds of years at that speed. The work of several people is done by one person, and the dishes in the 4 pots are not even prepared in the same way. One is fried, one is boiled, one is stewed, and the other is braised. The atmosphere in the whole kitchen looks like that of China. That's really Zhonghua, because this little girl who is having a blast in the kitchen has long blue hair tied into a big ponytail, and is wearing a red and white dress. On her shoulders, a green dragon forms a circle, and in the middle there is a big one. The special word. If you say this is cosplay, it will definitely make people feel bright. Isn't this the real female version of Liu Maoxing? Question mark. But Tang Yuan always felt as if he had seen this girl somewhere before, but he couldn't remember it for a while. Lin Xiaoyu still has a good memory. She blinked her eyes and realized it. She pointed at the girl who was cooking in the kitchen and shouted, likely. Elsa's loving little kitchen. When Tang Yuan heard this, he also remembered that when he came to the secondary void, everyone was sitting in Zalubia's living room watching TV. At that time, this girl's program was on, and it was about cooking. Rubia was still explaining beside her, saying that this girl is actually the will of the world in China 1. Is it really worthy of China? As soon as this female version of Elsa Liu Maoxing heard someone calling her, she turned her head, still holding a kitchen knife in her hand, and smiled at the two of them. Yeah, you are Zalubia who often talks to me. The ones you mentioned? It's a pleasure to meet you, my name is Elsa. Wait a minute, I'll finish these little guys. Tang Yuan ran back to the living room in a hurry, grabbed Zalubia's shoulder and asked, my sister, why do you still know Elsa? She is a famous person. I remember she told me when I was chatting with Esha. I said that the ratings of that little girl's show are super high. Why did she come to your house to cook? Zalubia smiled slightly. Acquaintance, I also know another young lady from Spirit of the Halberd Eater. Would you like to introduce it to you someday? No, 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 no. I know too many people. I'm afraid I can't remember the names in my head. Fuck, that Elsa looks so different from when she was on TV. She usually likes to wear special chef's clothes? Is this considered self-produced? It's beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful, gentle, and the cooking is super delicious. Zalubia muttered with her fingers, isn't she the best candidate to be a wife? What's the matter? Big brother, are you interested? Gone. No, I'm just curious. Tang Yuan shook his head. There are so many outstanding girls, how could I be interested in them one by one? That's true. Today, she came to play with me when she had nothing to do. It happened that you came back. I'll ask her to add some dishes later. It was quite a pleasant surprise to meet Zhonghua at Zalubia's house. In fact, Tang Yuan felt that the female version of Liu Maoxing looked quite cute. After eating, since none of them had the habit of taking a nap, they went out in a mighty way to go to the hospital to see Ida. This time Zalubia didn't dare to call Unrui again, and the girl sped up the car. It was frantic, so everyone behaved this time and piled up at the door of Zalubia's house to see if there was a bus. Let me tell you, why do you still have public transportation in the supervoid? Tang Yuan looked at a stop sign next to him, and asked Zalubia with a troubled face. Yes, why not? I remember it was some guy who couldn't remember the name, and he often drove a bus to carry people around. That guy seemed to be the will of the initial D or something. Fuck, as soon as Tang Yuan heard the initial D, he immediately panicked. Although he didn't know him, he was definitely a real old driver. Have you heard of Chu Mingshan? Question mark. Sister, how about we just walk there? Don't be afraid, that guy is very skilled at driving. Although he drives faster than in Rui, he drives very steadily, it's alright. Come on. Tang Yuan was psychologically shadowed by Enrui. Not long after, a bus drove over at the speed of light in the distance. It was really not much different from the speed of light. In the blink of an eye, the bus had already stopped in front of everyone. The most amazing thing was this terrifying speed. The wind didn't even pick up a trace. In the driver's seat, a young man with broken hair and a cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth poked his head out of the car window. Get in the car. Zalubia greeted everyone to get on the bus, whether it was a car or an airplane, and after getting on, she threw a handful of coins into the change jar that was glued next to it. Which station? The little brother asked, smacking his cigarette. Second house. Okay, let's go. When everyone found their seats and sat down, the little brother just put it in gear. The scene outside the window was no longer discernible with the naked eye. Even Tang Yuan could only see the colorful lines outside, and didn't know what it was something. In just a few seconds, the car stopped suddenly, but the people in the car didn't feel any inertia at all. Anyway, the car stopped in an instant from an indescribable speed. It's really scary. The second courtyard is here. It's troublesome, master. Zilubia got out of the car with everyone. Tang Yuan just stood on the ground, stomped his feet, and stood firm. When he turned his head, there is no bus. I ran away long ago, everything just now seemed like a dream. As expected of Chu Mingshan rider. He sighed, followed everyone into the inpatient department, and then walked into the familiar elevator. His eyelids twitched as he watched Zalubia press a number on it that didn't know how many digits, and get out of the elevator. Esha was already waiting at the door of the ward. To be continued. Chapter 204 Injection. Hello, is it a demon? Someone is broadcasting the dog, and the dog is almost unable to hold on. Text yet, you guys are here, come in quickly. Esha quickly waved when she saw the crowd, led them into the ward, and looked back. Hey, how many new faces are here? Come in, all of them. Let Ida make more friends. That child is usually too lonely. If it can make her happy, it must be very good. Speak in human language. Tang Yuan said in reflex as soon as he heard her last sentence. Come in. Esha coughed dryly, grabbed Tang Yuan by the ear and dragged him into the ward. It was still the same arrangement as before, but this time the curtain beside the hospital bed was closed, and Ida was sitting on the bed, holding a PSP and playing vigorously. It can't be said that it is a PSP. This is Lin Xiao's special A remodeled game console with dual joysticks and 2 pairs of shoulder buttons, on which GTA 9 is running. The game is jointly provided by Zalubia and Anru. Ida, everyone is here to see you. Esha walked over and grabbed the game console in her hand, pressed pause, and then snatched it over. Hurry up and say hello. Brother, are you back? Ida stretched out her hands weakly, trying to snatch the game console back, but Esha had already walked 1 meter away, and she could only see that she couldn't touch it, so she struggled. He greeted Tang Yuan with a straight face. Yes, I'm back. Tang Yuan sat by her bed and patted her head. How do you feel? You've been much more energetic these days, right? Next to her, Esha took out a small notebook, sketched on it, and said, it is true that she is much more energetic. Since the erosion stopped, she has stopped weakening. Although her body is still weak due to lack of strength, at least I am no longer in a coma as often as I was before. I have a normal appetite and eat something occasionally. Occasionally. Tang Yuan couldn't help repeating these 2 words when he heard them. That's right, occasionally. Esha put away the notebook, stuck in the career line, and continued, there is too little exercise, and her world progress has been suspended, so she basically has nothing to consume at ordinary times. Apple can manage it for 2 or 3 days. Let's talk about this game console. Originally, I don't recommend patients to play games, because it may cause patients to stay up late, and it will affect the patient's psychological state. It's pretty good, so if she wants to play this, let her play. Oh, it's nothing to play games, but the way this kid looks at me every night when I come to confiscate the game console makes me feel a little creepy. Esha said and handed the game console to Tang Yuan. And all of you, what kind of games did you install for her? Why can the protagonist in this game go to pole dancing club? Driving a car and find a girl to play car vibrations with? I'm afraid you won't pass the review. Zilubia raised her hand. Of course I can't pass the review, because this game is a private product made by Enrui and I got it from Grande. Tang Yuan has also heard of this Grande, and it seems to be the will of the world in the GTA series. This group of creator gods are really all kinds of self-produced and sold. They are so good at playing. Esha shook her head helplessly, then stretched out a hand to Tang Yuan. Where's the thing? What? Oh, I haven't remembered yet. Tang Yuan patted his head, took out the small transparent strip from his watch, and handed it to Esha. She held this small transparent strip in front of her eyes, looked at the light, and nodded. Not bad, it's about 0.826%. It's good enough to collect so much for the first time. This amount should be collected about a month. She glanced at Tang Yuan. Well, 1 month. Tang Yuan nodded. Next time, you can try to find a world that is easier to pass the time. If you can't, find a place where no one will disturb you and sleep for hundreds of years. You can get a few % of your power. Esha said. She took out a syringe from the career line, pinched the small transparent strip with 2 fingers and rubbed it. I don't know what she did. The small transparent strip changed from solid to liquid and flowed into the syringe. Then she flicked the pin and walked over to Ida. Ida, turn over and take off your pants. What? What? This dose is relatively large. The little deltoid muscle on your little arm can't bear it. Hurry up, let me have a look at the gluteus maximus. Esha said and came forward to give Yi tower turned over. Immediately, Yida's face turned blood red. She glanced at Tang Yuan and the group of people behind him, and said in a trembling voice, "At least, let brother go out for a while." When Esha heard it, as if she had just realized it, she turned her head and glanced at Tang Yuan. "You know, be more conscious, or should I kick you out?" Tang Yuan had a dry cough, and dragged Liu Yun out of the ward, but when he dragged Liu Yun out, he seemed to see a bewildered look on Esha's face. She didn't know that Liu Yun was actually a YOO. Then the two of them heard a faint but incomparably vivid scream from outside the ward. "It hurts." Tang Yuan recalled that he had always been in good health when he was a child and had never been sick at all, but when he accompanied Tang Xin to the clinic for an injection, Tang Xin's little lolly screamed. It was so sour, to exaggerate, that girl's voice almost shattered the surrounding glass. After a while, Esha opened the door and stuck out her head. "Okay, come in." Tang Yuan walked into the ward again, and saw that Ida had changed her posture, and kept lying on the bed, biting the pillow and not talking. What's wrong with her? Tang Yuan was speechless when he saw the battle. Is it so exaggerated? Normal phenomenon, the power of this world, let me tell you, it is a good thing, but it is a little offensive. Esha weighed the empty syringe in his hand, then crushed it, and threw it away, put it into the trash can next to it. If you look at the power of this world as a drug according to medical terms, then it is strongly irritating and difficult to absorb, which is much more painful than penicillin, potassium salt or something. All of the above is a temporary summary of what I saw from Ida's reaction. After all, no one has ever injected this thing before. It feels like Ida has become a guinea pig. Tang Yuan glanced at Ida, who was still lying on her stomach with tears in her eyes, biting her pillow frantically, and felt that this girl really had a bad luck. With so many things going on in her life, it is also enough. What about resources? I also searched for a lot of resources here, he said, and took out a big ball of light from his pocket. Ida, do you want it? No. Ida refused without thinking. Even if my brother gave it to me, I don't want it. I can collect things like resources myself when I get better. I don't want the resources that others gave me. Sure enough, the 6th generation's will is to save face and suffer. Don't forget it. Tang Yuan thought so and put away the light ball again. This is several months of cigarette money. From the beginning of taking the bus to the current ward, the three of them, Tanya and the superpower high school student sisters, have always maintained a state of bewilderment. This development is indeed a bit exaggerated for ordinary people. God realm or something, the baby is afraid. To be continued. Chapter 205 Live Accident. You have discovered your identity. Who is speaking? Stay like this. Continue, whether it's revenge or becoming a hero. Who is speaking? Let me see how far you can do it. Anal your own mother's fourth master. There is no so-called day and night in the secondary void. The sky is always pitch black. It is not the sun that plays the role of illumination, but the large light balls floating in the sky. The gods who live here just watch time, never looks at the sky. So when Tang Yuan opened his eyes, because he was not awake, he saw that it was still dark outside, so he didn't react for a while, thinking that it was still early, so he clicked his mouth a few times, closed his eyes and prepared to continue sleeping. Sleep with you, uncle! Exclamation mark. As soon as he closed his eyes, he realized that a salted fish stood up from the bed. Originally, his home in the secondary void was the cabin in the ecological simulation cabin on the Tyrant, but later, because of unanimous negative comments from everyone, he said that I have never seen a man who has to go home and board the spaceship. I had no choice but to move the cabin out, next to the small building of Sylvia, and the Tyrant was lying alone not far behind the cabin. I often saw the AI on the bridge pulling the porthole, looking at it pitifully. Outside. So after Tang Yuan sat up, he opened the curtain, and saw Zalubia's room a few meters away from the window. She had already gotten up, and she was lying in front of the window in a daze. Tang Yuan pulled it away curtains, and stared at her. Brother, you're finally up. It's already 8:30. Sylvia waved to him. Because of the strange words he heard in a dream, Tang Yuan is not in a very good mood now, so he answered absent-mindedly, dealt with himself a few times, and then left the room. The life in the secondary void is very leisurely. Basically there's nothing to do, except for playing. Tang Yuan came back here for a few days, and the whole person became a lot lazy. He yawned and came to the living room and found that someone is still sleeping at this time. Tanya. Ever since this eldest sister was brought back by Tang Yuan, her style of painting has changed. She looks like a mouse all day long. She speaks softly and does things in a gentle manner. Request to sleep on the sofa in the living room. So when Tang Yuan came to the living room, he saw Tanya laying on the sofa with her back and forth. Her painting style was completely different from before. If you were to say that she was a sharp female agent of Mimin Feng in the past, now she is completely of the same style. The old home girl. I don't know if it's an illusion, but the appearance of this Tanya also looks slightly different from the Tanya played by the real person in the original version of Red Alert. You see, sleeping so deadly, someone walked to the side and didn't respond at all, and it's just a secret agent, and the United States will end sooner or later. Tang Yuan sat on the small sofa next to him, lit a cigarette without saying a word, took a sharp puff and sprayed it towards Tanya, then the eldest sister smacked her lips, muttered something, turned over and continued to sleep. My childhood goddess. Tang Yuan looked at her reaction indifferently, ignored her, and walked out of the wooden house with a cigarette in his mouth. As soon as he went out, he saw Liu Yun running around with the star anise. So children are good, they can spend the whole day happily running around, but how big is Liu Yun? Why does this guy laugh more than Beijing? Tang Yuan thought about who the mysterious voice was speaking in the dream, and walked away with a cigarette in his mouth. This voice is not unfamiliar, because he heard it before when he was in the world of Inuyasha, and it was also heard when he was sleeping. The voice disappeared after a very pretentious speech, and he ignored it completely. Tang Yuan's question. There's no way to interact, it sounds like it was pre-recorded. Tang Yuan muttered, and came to Zalubia's house, saw Lin Xiaoyu playing with something on the side of the road not far away, and walked over. Hey, girl, what are you doing? He walked behind Lin Xiaoyu and looked. There was a small launch pad in front of the girl, and a thing that looked like a rocket model was fixed on it. This small rocket there is a slightly larger ball on the top of the head. In fact, the ball is only the size of a fist. What is this? Tang Yuan always felt familiar when he looked at this thing, but he couldn't remember what it was. Oh, are you awake? I made this myself, a simple satellite launch pad. I want to know what is in the sky above this. Lin Xiaoyu glanced at him and said, continuing to play with a small launch pad. After a while, she patted it lightly, and then pulled Tang Yuan back quickly. Okay, back up quickly, back up. What are you afraid of? Such a small thing, I still don't believe that you can do anything to me. Tang Yuan didn't take it seriously, standing in front of the small launch pad with a pretentious smile on his face. Then, boom, this small rocket, which is not even the size of half a human arm, is propped against a small satellite the size of a fist. Accompanied by a huge and exaggerated roar, the bottom spews out a large handful of flames with a radius of 3 to 4 meters. If you look at it from a distance, how can you see this little rocket? All attention was attracted by the tail flame that looked like a fireball. How did Tang Yuan know that this little thing was so mighty, unprepared to be directly smeared by this big fire? Although it didn't hurt him, he should still be calm. Damn! What the hell are you doing? It's unscientific. He ran up to Lin Xiaoyu with a face full of black smoke, and he didn't even need to ask with a black face, as his face was already black. I have strengthened the firepower, because I used to launch satellites on ordinary planets. If the firepower is too high, the satellite will fly away directly, and it is easy to escape the attraction of the planet's gravity, so I have deliberately reduced the firepower before. Lin Xiaoyu took out a small handkerchief, and wiped Tang Yuan's face while saying, but it's different here, after all, the sky's round, this place is not even a planet, and I don't know the sky. What is there at the highest point, so I thought about using the highest firepower, carrying the most fuel, to see how high I can fly, and what can I see? Does it hurt? This is the hundreds of billions of degrees of tail flame that directly burns my face. You have to open the shield to dare to resist. Hundreds of billions of degrees. It doesn't hurt, I said you have nothing to do, why do you suddenly want to study the sky here? Tang Yuan looked at the little rocket in the sky, it flew so fast, after such a short while, it almost disappeared from the field of vision. which may also be due to the small size of the small rocket itself. Curiosity. Isn't it because of curiosity that people explore science? Lin Xiaoyu pulled him to the side, and a few benches were built under the eaves of Zalubia's small building, and the two sat on the benches, and then she took out a small screen and beckoned Tang Yuan to watch it together. Come, it's live broadcast. You see, the screen is still black at this time, because the sky is already pitch black. She pointed to the screen and said, the signal is good, and theoretically the distance of this set of receivers should be -1024 light years, that is, close to infinity, so maybe let it continue to fly up, maybe someday we can observe something powerful. I always feel that what you are doing is meaningless. Tang Yuan looked at the sky. At this time, little rocket had completely disappeared. How can it be meaningless? Oh ha! Lin Xiaoyu exclaimed as soon as she finished speaking. What happened? Look! She pointed at the screen and yelled at Tang Yuan. Tang Yuan leaned his head over to have a look. A lolly appeared on the screen. This lolly Tang Yuan still remembers. She seems to often see her flying around in the sky on a broomstick. That broomstick is also very special. It looks full of technology. It is full of parts and gears. Lin Xiaoyu used to be far away looking at the broom showed great interest. At this time, this lolly is riding a broomstick flying in the sky at an unknown height, and from the screen and the perspective of the satellite, she can see that she is looking at this small rocket carrying a satellite from below towards watching her approach. That dazed and delicate face became bigger and bigger on the screen, and as the distance between the satellite and her got closer, Tang Yuan could almost see the color of this little lolly's skirt. She wasn't wearing a skirt, wearing loose shorts. Why doesn't this brat hide for a while? Why does he just look at it with such a dazed face? Tang Yuan yelled while staring at the screen. Finally, accompanied by a burst of flowers, there was a loud noise from the sky. Boom, boom, boom. A huge cremation flower bloomed in the sky at an unknown height. How big is the spark? Question mark. Looking so far from the ground, the flames of the explosion can illuminate half of the sky. Tang Yuan grabbed Lin Xiaoyu's back collar with a troubled face and lifted her up. Xiaoyu, are you sure that your rocket is equipped with a satellite? Isn't it an intercontinental missile equipped with a nuclear warhead? Lin Xiaoyu blinked with cold sweat on her face. I said that this time I carried a huge amount of fuel. The ingredients in it are terrible. Think about it, the tail flame of hundreds of billions of degrees. The fuel is not fuel efficient. The lamp. I think that after colliding with that lolly just now, all the fuel was detonated together. Yao Xiao killed someone. That's just a child. This is a crime. Tang Yuan held his head and began to shout, what should we do? I don't know what to do. I feel more distressed about my several tons of fuel. Lin Xiaoyu also hugged her head and shouted, is it easy for me to compress several tons of this dangerous fuel into 1 liter of volume? Just blow up my old lady. Live broadcast the accident. Heartbroken, old man. To be continued. Chapter 206 So you are pervert. After a while, the big group of flames in the sky finally dissipated, and then a scorched figure fell from the sky. Oh my god, this is really fatal. Tang Yuan yelled and ran over, raising his hands high. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to catch her. Catch. Boom. With a huge gravitational acceleration, the scorched little lolly directly hit the ground 1 meter away in front of Tang Yuan. A circular crack with a diameter of more than 10 meters was directly knocked out of the solid ground of unknown material. Feeling ashamed and humiliated, Tang Yuan hurriedly went to see if the little lolly was still alive. After taking a look at it, his feeling was, how miserable. The little sister who used to be quite fair and clean is now blown into a black ball all over her body. Anyone who knows it knows that this is a little lolly. My sister, her leg was broken by her father. At this time, Lin Xiaoyu also ran over, looking at the little lolly who was not missing any arms or legs but couldn't find a spot that wasn't black all over her body, who was still pumping up and down from time to time. First pressed the little lolly's neck, he listened to her chest again, and said to Tang Yuan, it's okay, I'm still alive. Sure enough, there are guards everywhere in the secondary void, and no one is a simple thing. Just find a little Lolita who can resist this level of explosion. When it burns steadily, it can have hundreds of billions of degrees high temperature. If all the energy in it is released through an explosion in an instant, this power may be able to blow up the earth in an instant, right? In the end, the little lolly resisted the explosion that was enough to blow up the earth, and just passed out. It was amazing. By the way, Lin Xiaoyu was always tinkering with Jiba's stuff. Question mark. Is this really trying to rebel? Question mark. If she wants to rebel, how many people can stop her? Question mark. Lack of discipline, young man, your thinking is very dangerous. Hey, little sister. Hey, wake up. Tang Yuan picked up the little lolly and shook her, but she rolled her eyes and did not respond. She shook her hands and feet as Tang Yuan carried her back and forth, watching like a wind chime. Should we take her to the hospital? Lin Xiaoyu reminded when she saw that the little lolly was not only rolling her eyes, but was about to stick out her tongue after being shaken by Tang Yuan for a long time. Oh. That's right, the hospital. Upon hearing Tang Yuan's words, he immediately understood. Is that Chu Mingshan rider who doesn't know where she is? That so-called bus is just driving around depending on the mood, and Rui? Where is she now? At this time, the door of the small building next door was also opened. Salubia heard the explosion and came out to see what happened. As soon as she walked out the door, she saw the lolly on Tang Yuan's shoulder, and exclaimed, Arian. Tang Yuan and Lin Xiaoyu looked at each other. Come on, they are acquaintances again. So he handed this lolly to Zalubia. Do you know this little sister? When Xiaoyu launched the satellite just now, she was flying in the sky, and she directly collided with the satellite, and was blown up like this. Hello, I said, should we hurry her to the hospital? Zalubia hugged the little lolly, looked left and right, and stretched out her mouth to look at the tongue inside, and then smiled. It's okay. The sound at the center of the explosion is too loud, it scared her just dizzy. PFFT. Lin Xiaoyu on the side directly sprayed a mouthful of old blood. What are you talking about? Tang Yuan said with a face full of remorse. Is it just fainted by fright? This unlucky kid dared to fly around in such a high sky, how could he be fainted by this kind of explosion? Fear of heights and timidity are not the same thing, okay? Sylvia glared at him. It's like a certain author who dares to catch snakes with his bare hands, but he is afraid of cockroaches and has a fear of heights. Do you think he is brave or timid? So, why bother with this if you have nothing to do? She snorted, and walked into the bathroom with this little girl named Arian in her arms. Wait a minute. I'll clean her up. Tang Yuan and Lin Xiaoyu stayed in the living room, looking at each other and not knowing what to say. Finally Tang Yuan coughed dryly to break the silence. Well, what? Why don't you try to launch another satellite? This time, you might be able to send the Tathagata Buddha or Allah blows it down. Fuck you, sir. I still feel sorry for those tons of fuel. Lin Xiaoyu scratched him angrily, glanced at the small screen that was no longer useful in his hand, and took out a small screwdriver. He dismantled this small display screen into a bunch of parts, and put it in his pocket. I was so mad, I wanted to see what was in the sky, but I only saw a half-dead lolly. That? I heard someone talking about Lolita. At this moment, a voice that shouldn't be here sounded beside the two of them. Tang Yuan looked over there. Esha. It was rare for her to wear a short black silk skirt and white coat in the hospital, but changed into an ordinary shopping outfit. At this moment, she walked into Zilu through the open door with a small bag on her shoulders and a pair of thick-soled high heels. Pia's house. Sister Doctor, you are. Tang Yuan looked at her here with a slightly hesitant tone. I came out to fish today. Esha raised the small bag in his hand and signaled, it feels good to skip work, haha. It's over, even doctors who dare to skip work to catch fish, what kind of world is this? Esha didn't know what Tang Yuan was thinking. She glanced at the huge crack on the ground outside. She didn't understand what was going on with the secondary void. The big crack had already started to heal slowly by itself. She asked Tang Yuan, Deo, where are you talking about, Lolly? I like to check up on little Lolly the most. Really, let me tell you, little Lolly is amazing. She has a petite figure, soft skin, and a sweet voice. Innocent eyes, and oh ho ho. Before she finished speaking, her nose started to bleed, and she hurriedly took out a tissue from her pocket, crumpled it into strips and stuffed it into her nostrils. It's over, Esha, a female doctor with a serious face on weekdays, turned out to be a pervert. Tang Yuan only felt that the world was spinning and the sun and the moon were dark. Where is little Lolita? After she stopped the nosebleed, she stared at Tang Yuan Wendeo with some kind of fanatical eyes. Should I say it? Alice, forget it, there are so many people here, forgive her for not daring to do anything that should be harmonized. So Tang Yuan pointed to the bathroom sullenly. It's blown black, Zalubia is bathing her. Oh. As soon as Esha heard what he said, he immediately became agitated. Bathe the little lolly. I'm good at this. Really, I'm super good at this. Let me go too. As soon as she finished speaking, Tang Yuan, who couldn't bear it any longer, grabbed her hands and pushed her down on the sofa beside her. Sister, calm down. More than 3 years. The maximum penalty is death. What are you afraid of? 3 years of blood earning the death penalty is worth it. Let me go. Esha struggled as Tang Yuan held her down, and yelled, come here, help me. Someone wants to rape me. Son. Tang Yuan cursed angrily, Xiaoyu. Fuck me. Okay. Lin Xiaoyu took out a big wrench, swung it round, and hit Esha on the head, only to hear a duong sound, and this big sister, a doctor with a completely different image from the past, collapsed on the sofa, her legs twitching. I smoked, but didn't move. Tang Yuan let her go, stood up, straightened his clothes, and looked like the world had collapsed. Oh my god, I thought this big sister was a good person before, she's actually a pervert. It's okay to be abnormal. Lin Xiaoyu put away the wrench, and her expression was a little weird. The question is, why is this guy completely different from when he was in the hospital? Who knows? I'm afraid it's not schizophrenia. While the two were talking, the sound of water in the bathroom stopped, and after a while, Sylvia came out holding the little lolly named Arian. This little lolly used to have long silver hair combed into a long ponytail, but now it has just been washed, and her hair has been let down into long straight hair, and she is wearing a short sleeve from Sylvia. For her, this short sleeve dress is almost a dress. It looked like she was still awake, and she was carried out by Zalubia and placed on the sofa next to Esha. Huh? Isn't this Esha? What's wrong with her? Sylvia asked when she saw Esha collapsed on the sofa. Oh, she was tired from walking, and she just passed by you, so she came in to have a rest, and then she might have gone epileptic or something, and she just became so high, I'm afraid she'll throw your house away. If she breaks something, she just knocked her out. Tang Yuan made up an excuse. Okay, I understand. Zilubia took out a blanket from nowhere and covered the two of them, and then she remembered to ask Tang Yuan, what satellites did you talk about before? You have nothing to do to launch them. What are the satellites for? Lin Xiaoyu confessed truthfully, I'm just curious about what's in the sky. After all, the environment of this place is quite mysterious. Maybe there's something interesting in the highest part of the sky. I advise you not to do this. If you go up, you will leave the secondary void directly, and then, besides the secondary void, there is an endless, real void. Sylvia said lightly, only will in order to survive in the void, others, such as items, gods in the ordinary world, mortals, etc., will be annihilated the moment they enter the void, so no matter how many satellites you launch into the sky, it is useless. Oh, I see. As soon as Lin Xiaoyu heard her explain what was above the sky, a look of disappointment appeared on her face. At first she thought that there was something terrible on it. To be continued. Chapter 207 Dog Management and Void and Whale. Seeing Zalubia put Arian and Esha together under the same blanket, Tang Yuan always felt a little uneasy. This Esha is a pervert, he just said something terrible, it is almost time to set up a podium to stand on it and shout masters, I like lolly. Forget it, there are so many people here, forgive her for not daring to do anything excessive, probably. Speaking of this little sister, do you know her? Tang Yuan asked Zalubia, who nodded and said, yes, she is a very well-behaved child, and she is very sensible, taking care of her two big worlds. Get organized. Two? Which two? Tang Yuan became interested. Devil May Cry and God of War. There was originally a Ninja Gaiden, but it was given to someone else. Hey mom. ACT Fanatics, unexpectedly, all the big three in action games used to belong to this little Lolita's world. Even if one is given away, they still occupy two of them now. She and I have known each other for tens of thousands of years. You may not believe it. If you find a lolly girl in the secondary void, their age may be calculated in billions. In fact, there are a lot of young will, but in the past tens of thousands of years, I don't know what's going on, the birth rate has become more and more serious, and I haven't seen a child for a long time. After listening to Zalubia's words, Tang Yuan knew what a legal lolly is. Just counting from the time she met, this Aryan is at least tens of thousands of years old, so her real age. At 8 Cloud Purple Srixtkvivgubhi. Damn ghost, why are you distracted again? Lin Xiaoyu saw that Tang Yuan's eyes became dazed again, and quickly stretched out her hand to grab him. Ah. Oh, sorry. Tang Yuan touched his waist, then looked at the two people who hadn't regained consciousness on the sofa. What should we do now? Will this little sister be held accountable after she wakes up? Anyway, she has nothing to lose, what is there to pursue? Zilubia gave him a blank look. No loss? I've rolled my eyes from being blown up. Tang Yuan felt that the thoughts of these guys are not in the same dimension as human beings. It seems that they are not on the same dimension? Yes, several tons of concentrated fuel. Lin Xiaoyu also yelled. Shut up, girl. I gave you your research funds. If it weren't for me, how could you waste so many things? Tang Yuan glared at her. Seeing the two people arguing, Zalubia shook her head with a smile, and continued, it's really not a loss for us, you know, generally speaking, we won't die, so if we touched porcelain does not work in the secondary void. Except for drug management, no one has a way to kill whales. Of course, Ida is an exception. Maybe your first generation of whales also has the ability to kill other whales. But are you willing to do it? I don't want to. Tang Yuan shook his head hastily. Isn't that enough? Speaking of which, I'm glad you're a good person, otherwise the secondary void would be really messed up. Sylvia shuddered when she said this. Dog management, it's enough to make people uncomfortable. Anyway, she doesn't come to the secondary void very often, but if you are also the kind of guy who kills you with a disagreement. But we can't kill you completely. There is simply no other way to survive than to be oppressed. You can't kill me. Tang Yuan's eyes widened when he heard her say that. What kind of argument is that? Well, it may be difficult for you to understand, but the general meaning. Zalubia pointed at Tang Yuan's chest. Maybe you didn't notice it yourself, but now your body is just a body. Maybe your consciousness is also in this body, but when your body dies, your consciousness will go back to where you were. I don't know where that is, but you don't have yourself in your body, the existence of the will. I can be sure of this. What the hell? Tang Yuan was indifferent. You mean, my body is actually just a small one? Then where is my big one? Who knows? If you don't even know, how can we know? And even if we know where your will is there a way for us to kill you? What I said, will cannot kill will, that is, maybe we can destroy this body, but we can't destroy a will. But you can. Look at the pitiful look of Ida. She looks weak, but in fact is because my own will was hurt by you, it became like this. After listening to Zalubia's explanation, Tang Yuan finally realized how brave he was. The will of the first generation is really incredible, the existence second only to dog management. Okay? Speaking of, can you tell me about that, about the dog management? Tang Yuan suddenly became interested in the guy who wrote Mother and read Dog Management. You want to hear it? That's fine, I'll tell you about it. Sylvia poured a glass of water and sat on the small sofa beside her. This probably starts with the earliest void. As soon as everyone heard it, they knew that this might be a long story, and they all got ready to listen carefully. In the earliest days, in a place that cannot be described in words, there was nothingness, there was nothing, perhaps not even the concept of nothing, in a state of absolute nothingness. Even if there was something in it, it may also be instantly neutralized and assimilated by this state of emptiness, just like 0 multiplied by any number is equal to 0. Of course, there was no emptiness at that time, not even emptiness, there was real nothingness. Then the first thoughtful guy appeared, let's call it the root for now, and the sexuality that appeared later was female. Yes, you may have guessed, she is the dog management, she was born directly in this nothingness among them. Perhaps she is the only existence that will not be assimilated and annihilated by the void. She established the void. Void is the first concept she created. Perhaps for other creatures, there is no difference between void and nothingness. They all die when they touch it. But for our will, void is the first place suitable for our survival. But after all, there is nothing in the void. Maybe the dog management was a good mother at that time? She thought that she might create a child in the future, so she created a world in this void. It is the secondary void, literally, is the existence second only to the void, and the various concepts in the secondary void are constantly changing. According to the world, it is the world with the most compatibility, and it is the only world created by the dog management. Creatures in the world can survive in it. We have to admit that dog management is indeed better than us in this regard, because there are incompatibilities between many worlds created by our will, and the creatures in this world may run to you can't live in another world. Then, the secondary void was created. If you have a home, You should have a family. At that time, the dog management created the first batch of children, which is what we later called the first generation of will. As soon as Tang Yuan heard this, he became serious. He got to the point, maybe there was something about his life experience in it. After the first generation of wills were created, they lived in the secondary void and lived happily with the dog management. Maybe the dog management at that time was really a good mother? It's a pity that those of us who were born later, it is impossible for your child to know what happened at that time. Continue to say, the first generation of wills were the first batch of children created by the dog management, and they were endowed with powerful power, and then, for some reason, they were killed by the dog management. Not all of them. There are still left a person with amnesia. As for the reason for killing the first will, we naturally don't know, and we dare not ask. In addition, there are very few materials left at that time, so we can only guess something from the diaries of the first will. So why the first generation of wills were killed by the dog management has become an unsolved mystery. According to our speculation, not long after the first generation of will was killed by the dog management, she created the second generation of will, and the second generation of will was endowed by her with power second only to the first generation of will, and then they began to create the world. In general, it can be summed up as follows: the first generation of will, possesses the most powerful power, infinitely close to the void. The second generation, the first batch of wills to create the world, because the technology of creating the world was not perfect at that time, the shape of this batch of worlds is not fixed, there are various chaotic forms, even the concepts are chaotic. It is not even clear whether the creatures inside can be regarded as creatures. Even so, the second generation will is still the strongest group of wills in existence besides the first generation will. The further back the weaker the will in general, but there are always unexpected situations. In the third generation, the wills tried to unify the concepts of the worlds, but due to imperfections, although their worlds had similar concepts, there were very few lives in them. In the fourth generation, the concepts of the worlds created by the will were further unified. In this period, creatures of various shapes were born in the world, and there were very few creatures in the form of gods, humans. Although the concepts were unified, there were still differences between worlds. There are huge environmental differences, only the measurement standards are unified. Some worlds are shrouded in flames, need air to survive. In the fifth generation, the environment of most worlds has also been unified, and the appearance of creatures is basically determined to imitate the appearance of will, God form, human form, but there are still most worlds that have not formed the concept of universe. It is just a huge sky and land, and there is nothing beyond it. In the sixth generation, for the first time, a will proposed the concept of universe. Creatures live on balls in nothingness, vacuum. They have their own explanations for the balls they live in, and try to understand the reasons for the appearance and operation of these balls. At the same time, the will of this generation is the only aggressive generation, and likes to seize resources from other wills. For the wills of other eras, resources are not particularly important, so they simply don't pay much attention to them. Most of the wills of the sixth generation will compete with each other when seizing resources. Also in this generation, a certain will created the original Lord God, and the Lord God absorbed the natives of the world, and went to other worlds instead of wills to seize resources. Although this method is not efficient, but because of its unique competitiveness, it has won the unanimous praise of the sixth generation will, and they have followed suit and used the main god to compete. Gods always don't care about the life and death of mortals. In the seventh generation, the world created by the will has once again become diversified, but the concept is more complete. There have been various worlds with different worldviews, and the creatures have once again become different. The will of this generation is not aggressive, but likes to spread the concepts of their own world. When these concepts reach other worlds, they generally do not really become basic concepts, but become information carriers. Literary works, film and television works. The eighth generation, the world they created is not much different from the seventh generation. It can be regarded as an extension of the seventh generation, but it is further diversified and the concept is further improved. Others are the same as the seventh generation. The eighth generation, the concept of will also becomes an information carrier after it spreads. Anime manga, the ninth generation, that is, my generation, we try to further diversify the world and further improve the concept. Strictly speaking, the difference between the world created by our generation and the eighth generation is only the difference in the time of appearance. Game, of course, What I'm talking about here is only the difference between the worlds. In fact, the wills of each generation are only different in strength, and there is nothing else different. As for the 10th generation, the will of the 10th generation has not yet appeared. Finally, Zalubia drank some water, looked at Tang Yuan, who was already in a daze, and said, "And there may never be a 10th generation of will." What? The dog management has been out of contact for several months, and there is no news at all. It's as if she is dead. There will be no more wills of the 10th generation, right? You must know that the algebraic distinction between wills is distinguished according to their respective versions. If a child is born between two wills, that child will not be pushed down to become the next generation. The will of one generation, but refer to the version of either parent. Oh. I understand. Tang Yuan nodded blankly. So, there probably won't be a 10th generation of will in the future. To be continued. Chapter 208, Getting Ready. As soon as everyone heard what Arian said, they gathered together and looked at her mobile phone screen. Tang Yuan was amused when he saw it. The remake of DMC that Cabby released on PS5. High Definition Agiron, the player's joking name for the black-haired Dante in DMC, used to distinguish the difference between the two Dantes. At this time, this high-definition Agiron is sitting on a high-definition sofa, smoking a high-definition cigarette, drinking in high-definition, watching high-definition pole dancing. It seems to be before the plot begins, or maybe after the plot ends. Oh my god, why did the card bitch remake this thing? Tang Yuan couldn't laugh or cry when he saw the scene on the screen. The game is a good game, but the mistake is that the name is Devil May Cry. Hey, this can't be the reason why I feel uncomfortable, right? It's just a separate small plane branch out of the world. Arian looked at the high-definition Agiron on the screen and was about to reach out to her crotch to masturbate. Yes, without further ado, changed the channel. Then the screen of the small phone in her hand changed, and she came to Devil May Cry's Devil May Cry office. Nothing unusual. Dante was sleeping with a pornographic magazine on his face, his legs resting on the table, filled with empty beer cans and pizza boxes. I don't think the problem is in Devil May Cry. Arian knocked the phone on the table, the phone made a beep, and the screen went black. Fuck. Little sister, you broke this thing. Tang Yuan said. No. It's not because I broke the phone. Arian picked up the phone and pressed it, and the screen lit up again. I was just about to change the world I was observing, but it seems the signal from God of War world is gone. Eh? As she spoke, she froze, then grabbed her hair and started to yell, "Where's my God of War world?" She started frantically changing the screens on her phone, but all she could find was the world of Devil May Cry, God of War or something, not at all exist. Esha looked at her reaction and whispered, "I guess the problem is here. Your world has been invaded." Well, maybe it's not as simple as being invaded. The God of War world seems to have disappeared directly. This is unscientific. Arian hugged her head and let out a groan. It was all fine when I saw it the day before yesterday. I touched the fish all day yesterday, why is it like this today? Calm down, calm down. Esha touched her head. There have been some cases where the world of will was directly lost before, and yours is not a special case. Specifically, you can go to the World Management Center to report, whether it is an accident or a human reason. The brothers at the Management Center will help you. Woo, my God of War. Arian's face was full of tears. Why did it disappear? Sure enough, I feel uncomfortable because of this, right? But it's not because of this. Esha narrowed her eyes and said, the loss of the world only causes dizziness, but your other symptoms, should I say? Tell me, I can listen to everything now. Arian tugged at her sleeve with a bitter face. Well, actually, your symptoms seem to be kidney deficiency. The scene became very awkward again. Tang Yuan looked around and saw that everyone fell into terrible silence, so he decided to save the awkward atmosphere, so he patted Arian on the shoulder. Hey, do you usually urinate frequently and go to the toilet frequently? Crack it. Oh. When everyone saw Tang Yuan's playful play, they all laughed together, and the small building was filled with a happy atmosphere. Then Tang Yuan suddenly thought of something, and muttered, why don't I try to use this thing to search? Maybe I can directly search the world of God of War. He started to play with his watch while talking. Esha glanced at his watch. What? Does yours have any special functions? Search the world? It sounds unreliable. Hey, I remember that you modified this watch for me now, don't you know? How would I know? I'm just in charge of cutting off the link between you and Ida, and by the way, changing the link target of this thing to yourself. The other changes are all made by this thing. Thinking about it this way, the security guards you created with the will of the first generation are really smart, automation or something. Tang Yuan ignored her thoughts there, but turned on the watch, and clicked on the function that he had experienced once. That's right, it was the indifferent shake. Those who didn't know thought it was his playing widget. So everyone started to stare at Tang Yuan with strange eyes, shaking his left arm violently. After a while, Tang Yuan heard a beep. Then he looked at the text displayed on the watch. Nearby worlds, the Elder Scrolls, Rage, Devil May Cry, Long A Oceans Unleash Tale of Another World, Overbearing CEO Gets Hit by a Car, Final Fantasy, Death, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, God of War. There are so many nearby worlds, and many of them are unknown. There seem to be two strange names mixed in, so don't worry about it. Look, Tang Yuan pointed at the screen of his watch and showed it to Arian. Your God of War is here, already in an unknown state. Hey. Arian clung to his arm without letting go, staring at the watch screen and yelling, you can really find it out? What is the principle? There is no way, the will of the first generation is so weak. Tang Yuan smiled sullenly, and then asked Arian, what are you going to do now? What else can I do? I always feel that there is something wrong, so I decided. She clenched her fists and hammered, click, I want to go in and see for myself. Find out what happened in the world of God of War. Oh. Good idea. Tang Yuan shook his watch, do you want me to help? Yes. Because the coordinates of the world have changed, I can't find where this world is now. You have to take me there. Arian grabbed his clothes and refused to let go. Do me a favor, I owe you, it's your favor, take me to the world of God of War, I want to know what's going on. Up this. Tang Yuan fell into hesitation. He glanced at Zalubia and Esha, is it alright? Just bring a god into the world like this. It's okay, you guys are not here to cause damage. Sylvia waved her hand, besides, that world was originally Arian's, but it was lost due to unknown reasons. Well, how long will it take? Tang Yuan turned to look at Arian again. Just a few minutes, take me there. Okay. He nodded and looked at Lin Xiaoyu again. Xiaoyu, let me go away for a while, just a few minutes. Well, hurry up, damn it. Esha looked at the scene where the two said goodbye to each other, suddenly thought of something, pinched her chin and fell into deep thought, while Zalubia on the side looked at her and asked quietly, what's wrong? Should I say it? Esha whispered with distress. Say what? That girl named Lin Xiaoyu is pregnant. Alice. To be continued. Chapter 209, which is better than painless abortion? Alice. Hearing Esha's astonishing words, Zalubia let out an exclamation, which attracted everyone's attention. Tang Yuan looked at her strange expression and asked, what's wrong with you? Well, it's nothing, it's not a big deal, brother, go get busy, take Arian to the world of God of War and take a look, and come back sooner after solving the problem. Oh. Tang Yuan stared at her suspiciously. Zalubia was uncomfortable with his eyes, and she couldn't help shrinking behind Esha. What's wrong with you? Seeing her abnormal reaction, Tang Yuan became suspicious, leaned over and asked, I always feel that you are hiding something from me. Is it something that is inconvenient to say? If it is convenient, if you want to say it, you have to say it. Holding it in for a long time is not good for the kidneys. Oh my mother. As soon as he finished talking about the kidney, he was bitten by Arian again. This, Zalubia turned her eyes to Esha for help. Esha looked at the scene and thought it was too late, so she sighed, walked to the side and pulled Lin Xiaoyu over, then stared at Tang Yuan and asked, you two, these days, are you? Cough. Oh, what am I embarrassing about? Calm down, medical ethics. Listening to her burst of thoughts, Tang Yuan and Lin Xiaoyu both looked confused. Well, Esha straightened her face, looked at Tang Yuan and Lin Xiaoyu with a serious face, and asked, you two, did something happen 4 days ago? So what? What is it? 3 black question marks hung on Tang Yuan's face, but Lin Xiaoyu suddenly became embarrassed when he heard her question, and his eyes began to become evasive. Oh? Little brother, you don't know anything at all from the way you look. Esha saw that Tang Yuan's reaction didn't look like a fake, and suddenly felt that this matter seemed to be interesting, With a certain professional ethics, she pointed at Lin Xiaoyu mercilessly and said to Tang Yuan, "Your little girlfriend is pregnant. Judging from the smell, if I'm not blind, this child should be your seed." For a moment, the surrounding air became silent, and only Lin Xiaoyu's face changed drastically, and she opened her mouth not knowing what to say. This is worth thinking about. Tang Yuan narrowed his eyes when he heard this. "I always felt uncomfortable when I woke up in the morning, and then, 4 days ago, as mentioned before, when Tang Yuan returns to what he considers home, he doesn't meditate at night, but sleeps obediently, enjoying the rest time thoroughly, and he usually sleeps very well when he sleeps. Death, that is to say, this guy doesn't know anything after he falls asleep." Listening to Tang Yuan's speculation, Lin Xiaoyu's face began to congest and turn red at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the soles of her feet slowly rubbed towards the door. Then Tang Yuan strode forward and grabbed her by the collar, and lifted her up like a kitten. "Xiaoyu, what have you been doing while I was sleeping these past few nights?" Tang Yuan's smile was very warm. He looked like an old security guard wandering around in the community. "Why? Are you going to have a baby?" This. Lin Xiaoyu's face was full of embarrassment. Her speech was completely different from usual. She stammered. She was being carried around this for a long time, and finally seemed to accept her fate. His head drooped. "I'm sorry, I was wrong." Doing oha. Then she was hit on the head by Tang Yuan, and she subconsciously let out a strange cry. Then Tang Yuan picked her up and asked, "What are you going to do?" Hearing this question, Lin Xiaoyu raised her head with a blank expression. "What should I do? Keep it? Or destroy it?" Tang Yuan said calmly, "Why do you always like to make trouble when I'm not paying attention? Aren't you surprised?" "What's so surprising? If it were you, I wouldn't be too surprised to do something like this." Okay, how do you deal with it?" "Well." Lin Xiaoyu thought for a while, then turned to look at Esha. "Should we destroy it?" The tone was full of uncertainty. "That's okay. I respect life, but I respect patients' opinions even more." Esha leaned over and put her hand on Lin Xiaoyu's lower abdomen. "Okay, it's broken down, and another innocent child died." Sigh. "I don't understand. Doctors are obviously saving people. Why do they sometimes commit murder?" So fast. Lin Xiaoyu was stunned. She was still being held by Tang Yuan. Should it be an injection of anesthesia first, and then the boss inserted a tube? How can it be so troublesome? Esha replied impatiently, "I am an authority in the industry. I am an authority in the field of medicine, surgery, gynecology and pediatrics, plus a world department with a unique will. Membrane repair. I also pierce my own and use myself to do exercises. You can doubt my character, you can also doubt my medical ethics, but you can't doubt my professional technical level and my hundreds of millions of years of medical experience." Did I mention some X-rays just now? In fact, you misheard. Hearing her fierce speech, Lin Xiaoyu shuddered, obediently closed her mouth, and dared not speak any more. So Tang Yuan stared at Esha's lower body with a strange expression, and at this moment, the eldest sister was about to become angry and stretched out her hand. He looked away before hitting someone. "Okay, the child's matter is almost settled. It's time to get down to business, Arian, right? Let's go." Tang Yuan put Lin Xiaoyu aside as he spoke, pulled Arian up and waved a piece of paper Fisher. "Wait. I want to go too." Lin Xiaoyu grabbed Tang Yuan's clothes and refused to let go. "Why are you messing around? Be careful, that Master Kui will tear you apart." Tang Yuan glared at her. "Go home obediently." Oh. Such a terrifying aura. I always feel that after this guy knew what Lin Xiaoyu had done, the tone of his speech to her was a little different, full of the majesty of the head of the family. What the hell? 2333. "That's it, let's go." Tang Yuan dropped these words, and pulled Ai Lian into the crack. "Come back soon." Lin Xiaoyu lowered her head and waved weakly at Tang Yuan. Then the rift closed with a crack, leaving only a slit full of cracks, and then this slit also burst open and disappeared before everyone's eyes. In this way, Tang Yuan took Arian to the world of God of War through the crack. To be continued. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210. You really have kidney deficiency. The so-called god of war, in fact, can be summed up as: in Greek mythology, a god that did not exist originally appeared, and for some reason, this god finally killed all the gods on Mount Olympus. According to the multi-threaded development of the world line, it is not impossible for the plot of God of War to really appear. Everything starts with Zeus, an old hooligan, who fell in love with Al once again, when he became lustful. Themis, the maid, Callisto, but unlike in the myths, in the storyline of God of War, Callisto is just an ordinary Spartan woman and has nothing to do with Artemis. After that, Callisto gave birth to two boys, named Kretis and Deimos, where the word Kretis means strength and the word Deimos means fear. Maybe it means to bring fear to the enemy. The Spartans almost have such virtues in their names. Let's put aside the story about Deimos first. Now, Tang Yuan and Arian, who have already changed their clothes, walked out of the crack and came to a tall and dilapidated city. The top of the hill with small trees. Oh, this city looks familiar. Tang Yuan stood on the side of the mountain, looked at the tall city wall built of stones in the distance, and put on a roaring face. This is Sparta. This is Sparta. After Arian came out of the crack, she found a place to sit down and closed her eyes. She didn't know what she was doing. After a while, she opened her eyes, and then she looked unhappy. What's wrong with you? This expression is quite interesting. Tang Yuan looked at her and asked, I know why this world is suddenly out of my control. Arian said. The expression on her face became more and more terrifying. Do you know? Some worlds only have mortals, so although the content of the world is very monotonous, but at least mortals can't resist their will. But there are gods in some worlds, and these gods are the administrators in the world. Although this will make the world more colorful, but, if they unite, there is a possibility of rebellion. Ah. Are you saying that a group of younger brothers under you have rebelled? Tang Yuan immediately understood when she heard her say this. This is a rare case. You know, even gods know how to be grateful. They were created by their will, and they are their parents. But Greek mythology is a bit, how should I put it, indifferent. Yet, I understand. The whole Greek mythology is telling the story of cheating. You see, Uranus was reversed by Cronus, and Cronus was reversed by Zeus. In this timeline of God of War, Zeus was reversed by Kretis again. Compared to this, the Kenway family, Master Kong, etc. are simply weak. Huh? Why do I have an extra axe on my head? Tang Yuan said. He pulled out the Indian tomahawk that appeared out of nowhere on his head, and threw it aside. It seems that you know something. That's easy to say. Arian nodded. Someone is rebelling against me. Who? The God King? Who is the God King at this point in time? Tang Yuan heard that there were indeed 2 or 5 children rebelling, so he looked up at the sky. Zeus. But it's not Zeus who is rebelling, it's 2 higher beings. Arian corrected him. Have you heard of Cronus? You know, Kronos, the youngest son of Gaia, overthrew the rule of Uranus, the god of the sky. No, I'm not talking about Kronos, the king of Titans, but Kronos, the god of time. The pronunciation is different. Can you hear it? Look at my mouth. Kronos. Kronos is the god of time in Greek mythology. He and the god of inevitability, Ankh, gave birth to chaos, which is chaos, and chaos self-reproduced the first 5 primitive gods, which includes the earth goddess Gaia. Well, it looks good. Cough, I understand. Tang Yuan looked at the tender lips of this kidney deficiency lolly, and felt that he wanted to earn money for 3 years, so he coughed dryly and held back. Kaluo, the god of time north rebelled? It's right to think about it. It's not impossible for a guy who can control time to steal the world, but he is an idiot. I can directly see his inner thoughts. That guy not only wants to steal the world from me, but wants to become the same higher existence as me in his eyes, and then, rape me. Little Lolita was confused when she said this. Brother, you are right. In Greek mythology there are a bunch of youngsters. But fortunately, not everyone can be identified well. We are innate existence. It is impossible for someone to be promoted from a creation to become a will, just like the girl drawn by the author's dead house will never be. It might be the same as marrying him. Arian crossed her hips, lowered her head and stepped on a small stone under her feet. He didn't know enough, thinking that I was just the highest existence in this world. When he stole my I'll be knocked down and lose my power. and raped by him, but it's a very naive idea. You see, he stole the world. The only thing that affects me is that I feel dizzy, ringing in the ears, weakness in both legs, and being unable to sleep at night. No, don't try to deal with it. The ringing in the ears, the inability to sleep at night, and the weakness of the legs are all due to kidney deficiency. Hangchi. Oh wow. Let go. Don't bite me if you have the ability. Lick, but since they have already rebelled, I still have to show off and consolidate my dominance. Don't you think so? Arian glanced at Tang Yuan and waved at him bouncingly. Bend over, do me a favor. Ah. Tang Yuan bent down cooperatively. What are you doing? Arian jumped slightly and sat on his shoulder. This may delay me for a few days, so I will stay on your shoulders for a few days. Don't worry, no matter how hard you toss me, I won't fall off. Don't worry about me getting in your way. But, can you hide in my crack? Sitting on my shoulder like this, I always feel that it will be very eye-catching in public. I won't be able to work if I go into your rift. After all, the world belongs to you in a sense. Well, try not to talk to me. I want to snatch the world back, and then I can kill K. Ranis, and randomly arrange someone to be the god of time. Oh, what am I doing then? Whatever you do, it doesn't matter even if it's messing up the world. Anyway, it's good to be lively. After finishing speaking, Arian closed her eyes and stopped talking. Tang Yuan looked around and felt that the little lolly didn't seem to weigh much. Sitting on his left shoulder only slightly blocked his vision, and he also tried to do several backflips on the spot, even floating up and turning her head down a few times. The little lolly seemed to be ignoring gravity, firmly stuck to his shoulder. Come on, let's think of it as a shoulder pad with a unique shape. Tang Yuan complained, and let her sit on his shoulder like this, then glanced at the city of Sparta from a distance, and walked down the small hillside, walking towards the city of Sparta. It's not bad to go and see Mrs. Kui, after all, he is one of the representative figures of macho tough guys, pure man, the kind that can make a girl pregnant with his eyes. Although some people think that Kratos is ugly, but that can't be helped. Sometimes a man's handsomeness is not determined by his face. Aside from having a pretty face, that's all. To be continued. Chapter 211. This is Sparta. Sparta, a city-state of pure warriors. To some extent, if the Spartans hadn't been too small in population, they might have been able to sweep the entire ancient Greece. Tang Yuan was wearing his shabby black coat. He had added many small parts to this coat a long time ago, such as belts, buckles, a small leather shoulder pad on the right and so on. There are many more, all of which are detachable, and can be temporarily modified to adapt to a variety of worldviews. Even if you return to the normal modern worldview, you can quickly restore the clothes to ordinary clothes. Now his appearance is in the worldview is a little bit weird. As for the lolly with kidney deficiency sitting on her shoulder, just treat her as a unique shoulder pad, and don't bother to care so much. In this way, Tang Yuan came all the way to the outside of Sparta City, but was stopped by the guards at the gate. Your background. According to legend, the Spartans were taciturn and succinct, and they communicated as if they were passing military commands. As expected, Tang Yuan didn't care about this, and replied casually, "Travelers from afar, come here to pay homage to the god of war. Go in, don't cause trouble." Hearing his explanation, the guard withdrew his weapon and looked forward, as if he didn't see anyone. He didn't even glance at the little lolly on Tang Yuan's shoulder. So Tang Yuan walked into the city of Sparta. When he was far away, he noticed the statue in the center of the square. The big bald head blinded his dog's eyes, and he saw that it was Kratos. It seems that Ares has been honorably laid off at this time, and the current god of war is Kui Yi. In fact, at the end of the third generation, a group of people were arguing about whether Master Kui was dead or not. In Tang Yuan's view, it was a group of mentally retarded people fighting each other, because the official had already announced a final ending of the God of War series as early as the first generation. At the end of the first generation, Lord Kui sat on the throne of God of War. It was said on the screen that from then on, he would watch all wars in the world, and then a lot of pictures popped up, from ancient times to the present, including World War II and modern times. There are wars, airplanes, cannons and tanks. It shows that no matter what Kratos has experienced after that, he will eventually return to the throne of the God of War and sit until modern times, not to mention the end of the third generation. Kratos does not know wherever he ran, there was only a pool of blood left in place. God of War 4 is about to come out. The background is Northern Europe, Odin is afraid of this. The Jade Emperor is already a little panicked. Of course he didn't die. Tang Yuan looked at the statue in the square, thought for a while and still didn't go there, then grabbed a passerby and asked, "Excuse me, where's the temple of the god of war?" The passerby glanced at Tang Yuan, and then at the little lolly sitting on his shoulder. Although he was puzzled, he answered his question, "The temple? Oh, the temple's right here." Before he could finish speaking, the alarm bell on the tower on the city wall was rang. As a fighting nation, the Spartans all had received military training. As soon as they heard the alarm bell ringing, they all ran to the square to assemble without saying a word. This passerby was no exception. He said before she could finish speaking, "Say," as he ran to the square, and turned her head and shouted at Tang Yuan, "Go to the temple and you can go there." After speaking, she pointed in a certain direction, and then disappeared into the crowd. Within a few minutes, the square was full of densely packed Spartans. They neatly formed a huge square formation. Looking at the dusty man in armor on the stage in front of him, he saw the appearance of his armor. "Look, the status is probably not low." Tang Yuan said that he didn't seem to have seen this episode before, so he stood at the side of the square from a distance to see what the man was going to say. Although the square was full of people, it was very quiet. The Spartans were deliberately trained to value discipline since they were young. If people from the whole city gathered together like this, if it was put in our great China, tisk, that guy on the stage would definitely will be pissed off. The man looked around and glanced at Tang Yuan, but he didn't care. After all, the gates of the city are usually open. Although Sparta is not a good place for travelers, he didn't say that idlers are not allowed to enter, and he didn't bother. Regardless of the man wearing a strange black robe with a little girl sitting on his shoulders, he organized his language immediately, and said loudly to a large group of people below, "Sparta has entered a state of war. Everyone wears weapons and shields, ready to fight at any time." "Oh!" everyone roared in unison. Tang Yuan was indifferent when he heard this. This Spartan is simply the ultimate model for the army of all ages. An order came directly from above. "Oh, the state of wartime, ready to fight." So this group of people didn't know what they were fighting for, and they all got excited, and they didn't even ask why they were preparing to fight, who they were going to fight, everything. Do not ask, great Spartans. And then, after finishing talking, disbanding, the Spartans never asked why they were preparing for battle, and went to the armory one by one to collect weapons, shields and armor in an orderly manner, and then quickly and spontaneously formed an organization. All settled down in the barracks. This quality really made Tang Yuan, who had been a soldier, feel ashamed. But he seemed to remember what was going on in this episode, because he finally remembered who the man on the stage was. In God of War 2, the adjutant of Kratos, the guy who can directly talk to Kratos, who is the god of war. That is not a simple character. You know, Kratos is not the king of Sparta, but the god of war that Sparta believes in, and that man, as Kratos' adjutant, has the authority to mobilize the army at will. Kratos crawled out of Hull and asked him to go back to Sparta alone to mobilize the people to prepare for battle. So for one thing, this guy's status will definitely not be low, and he may even be the king of Sparta in this world line. What is impossible, Eris has already burped. As a Spartan, Kratos, after becoming the god of war, is not normal to carry out some reforms on Sparta, otherwise the identity of this adjutant is hard to explain. Tang Yuan thought about it for a long time, but he was still not sure. So he reached out and touched Lori on the shoulder. "Hey, Arian, that man, who is he?" Arian patted him on the head lightly. "Don't make trouble, I'm busy. Don't you know how to watch it yourself? You are still a first-generation will." Oh. Tang Yuan had no choice but to see for himself what the identity of that man was, so he transferred his mental power to the position of his eyes, and suddenly the whole world became colorful in his eyes. He didn't bother to look at other things, so he just put his eyes turned to the man. Albertus Warrior, the strongest human king of Sparta, sure enough. But what the hell is that strongest human being? It always feels like a title that makes people want to complain. Tang Yuan muttered to himself. This guy suddenly came back to Sparta, and as soon as he came back, he greeted the younger brothers to copy the guy and prepared to fight. It seems that it should be the plot of God of War 2, but I don't know how long it took this guy to return to Sparta. It is not clear where Kratos has pushed the main plot now. Thinking of this, Tang Yuan also started to get tangled up. He couldn't possibly run over to ask that Albertus, right, like what did your Lord Quigo or something? Others don't think of themselves as crazy? At this time, the little lolly on the shoulder seemed to see what was going on in his heart, and said to him, "Aren't you a god yourself? What's the trouble with talking to a mortal? Go straight up and pretend to be cowardly. Reveal your identity, and then. Well, I am XXX God, a friend of Kratos, tell me where he is." This way, well, simple and rude. It seems, is that the case? Tang Yuan thought for a while, and there seemed to be nothing wrong, so he tidied up his attire a little, and strode over. The Spartan king named Albertus saw that strange man in black robe walking towards him, so he also walked towards him and asked, "Who are you?" "Sparta is under martial law. It's best to leave." Albertus' minor injury. After Tang Yuan got close to this guy, he realized that he had various bruises, big and small. It seemed that his journey back to Sparta was not very peaceful, so he stretched out his hand and threw a ball of light towards him. Albertus watched this ball of light flying towards him, wanted to avoid it but found that it was flying so fast, and when he just realized it, this thing had already got into his body, just as he thought he was being shot. When he plotted, he felt a cool feeling all over his body, and when he looked down, all the wounds on his body had healed. "Thank you, who are you?" He looked at the strange man in black robe, and he was sure that this guy was probably a friendly person, so he lowered his guard slightly and asked, "I am the god of pretentiousness, Tuan." Tang Yuan's Japanese pronunciation, a friend of the god of war Kratos, don't be afraid. Tang Yuan smiled at Albertus. "I heard that Kratos was Zeus conspired to kill Albertus. Since you are his adjutant, can you tell me where Kratos is? I want to see if there is anything I can do to help him." Albertus felt relieved when he heard Tang Yuan's words. Although he didn't know what that pretentious god meant, the other party had already expressed his meaning very clearly. This guy is a friend of god of war, and he's specially Rain. He came to help, so he bowed his head slightly towards Tang Yuan, and replied, "Lord Kratos is not dead, but I don't know where he is. When he saw him last, he said he was going to find the three goddesses of fate. Sorry, that's all I know. Okay, goodbye." Tang Yuan turned and left. The result was just like this, and nothing useful was asked. He has played the game himself. Did he know that Kratos is now looking for the three goddesses of fate? Forget it, just wait for Kratos to come back. So Tang Yuan left the city of Sparta, came to the first hillside, and set up a tent for the night. If he remembers correctly, that guy Zeus would run over at night and razed Sparta to the ground. So the old man was a bit too much, killing Kratos was not enough, and the entire Sparta had to be destroyed. The baddest are all destroyed. This is to exterminate the grass and kill them all. Tang Yuan said that no one in your god of war world, including Qiyi, is a good person, but the only one he is a little familiar with is Kratos. If you don't help him, who will you help? Just wait here for Zeus to come over at night to pretend to be aggressive, and then continue to pretend that Zeus pretended to be aggressive. Since everyone has said that he is the god of pretending, then he must be worthy of his identity. To be continued. Chapter 212 Show Off, the god of pretense. Hello, is it a demon spirit? You made a typo. This is Aoi. Oh, that's good. I want a family bucket and a large glass of Coke, and help me make a beef pizza with pickled cabbage and pickled peppers. Text: the ancient nights were much darker than the modern ones. The sun sets and the moon rises, but the faint moonlight can't illuminate anything at all. If an ordinary person is in the wild at this time, he may only be able to see some rough outlines, that's all. But for Tang Yuan and Arian, who had their own night vision, it didn't matter whether it was night or not. The barbecue is ready. I brushed 4 tails of chili on it. It's super refreshing. Do you want to try some? Don't eat, get out. Oh, that's good. You continue to work on your work. Tang Yuan was sitting at the door of the tent, holding a roasted pork knuckle in his hand. Stop it. It's not halal. It was sprinkled with chili powder, pepper, cumin and scallions, because it was roasted directly on the campfire instead of a grill, so there was no brush oil. But even if it is not oiled, the pork knuckle is still dripping oil beads. It smells delicious. Nibbling on a roasted pork knuckle with a can of beer beside him, Tang Yuan just squatted on the top of the hill and looked at the city of Sparta in the distance. Because of Kratos' order, all the Spartans are now in a state of preparation for war. Even at night, there are dense guards standing on the city wall, and Albertus above the city gate personally leads people to stand guard. It's a familiar scene. Zeus should be coming soon, right? Tang Yuan said to himself. Not long after, a white eagle flew over from the sky. This Zeus was also fun, and he had no common sense. Even Tang Yuan knew that most birds of prey would not roam around at night, but this Zeus turned into an eagle. The shape leisurely flew over. What's even more interesting is that the Spartans didn't notice this crazy and abnormal eagle, standing guard on the city wall one by one in a daze. Soon the eagle flew over the city wall, and then, a golden lightning bolt struck down and hit an empty section of the city wall, and the city wall exploded with a boom on the spot, turning into rubble on the ground. On a nearby watchtower, the soldier above saw this scene and rang the alarm bell without saying a word. The eagle screamed, and in a burst of thunder, it turned into an indomitable giant. Who is that but Zeus? Seeing that Zeus raised his right hand, a huge lightning spear appeared in his empty hand. He found a random place and was ready to throw the lightning. Then, it's thundering. It's raining, collect your clothes. Such a voice came from his head. Tang Yuan appeared above Zeus's head at some point, with Arian's little lolly sitting on his shoulder. For a while, Zeuston was on the spot, and the fleeing Spartans also stopped, looking at the tiny figure standing above the huge Zeus over there. Tang Yuan tapped the cigarette butt at the corner of his mouth a few times, then spit it casually by his feet. The cigarette butt with sparks fell on top of Zeus's head, and a puff of blue smoke came out with a sizzling sound. He stretched out his foot and stomped on it, stomp out the sparks. The scene was extremely silent. Zeus' face turned black at a speed visible to the naked eye, and then he raised his huge right hand, and slapped him on the top of his head with a thunderous force. Boom! That loud bang was really painful to hear. Crack! There was a strange sound from the side. Zeus kept his right hand patted on top of his head, and turned his head to look. But Tang Yuan appeared on the guard tower next to him at some point, with his mobile phone in front of him, and took a selfie with his back to Zeus. Zeus was also photographed. Oh, Mr. Zeus, your posture is really cute. It's no wonder that you can still gossip everywhere when you are young. Do you rely on your appearance when you are young, and then rely on being cute when you are old? It seems very cute. Makes sense. Who are you? Surprised, why do you still ask Li Si who? It's shameful. Tang Yuan saved the photo, put the phone in his arms, and put on a very awkward pose. The god of pretense, Tun, come and pretend force. The god of pretentiousness? I've never heard of it. Zeus shook his head, and a bolt of lightning struck Tang Yuan with his hands. Tang Yuan watched the bolt of lightning flying towards him, and stood there with his arms akimbo and legs apart, just like a compass with thin legs and a drawing instrument, with his face facing that way. He was still yelling, very good. The opposite Pikachu used, volts. Arian, hold back a big move. Give him back. Roll. Arian didn't look at the lightning bolt at all, and said roll coldly from the corner of her mouth, and then the lightning bolt made a 180-degree turn as if hitting a mirror, and flew back towards Zeus. Crackling, Zeus originally thought that this was his own lightning, but the opponent did not know what method he used to bounce it back. He didn't think about defending or dodging at all, and let the lightning hit his chest, as if it was for him to recover. After charging, he didn't expect that the moment he encountered the lightning, he suddenly felt a thump in his heart, and a bad premonition emerged. Sure enough, before he had time to react, his whole body shivered like an old electrician who touched high-voltage electricity, and then he began to dance awkwardly, and he was shaken by all kinds of cute movements over and over, both physically and mentally suffered great damage. It's not good, although this pretentious god behaves like a psychopath, but he is really capable. The thunder and lightning was shot by himself as a god king. This guy can not only bounce back, it can also bounce back and strengthen the power of this lightning, directly causing damage to itself. This sun's cultivation base is at least above the holy level. When did such a young saint-level powerhouse suddenly appear? It seems that this continent is about to change. Thinking of this, Zeus felt that it was not good, and the 36 plan was the best. On the spot, he said the gas is not turned off at home, and then he turned into a white eagle with a burst of thunder, and flew away with a scream. Tang Yuan looked at Zeus, who was about to fly away into the sky, and laughed secretly in his heart. As expected of a man whose soul was eroded by the fear in Pandora's box, Zeus is now so cowardly, how can he look like a god king? Before he could think about whether he should chase after Zeus and beat him up, there was a loud cheer in the entire city of Sparta. He poked his head out from the sentry tower and looked down. The Spartans of the whole city surrounded them, shouting with their fists raised high. If it wasn't for the smiles on their expressions, Tang Yuan would have thought they were going to tie themselves up and carry them to the center of the square to sprinkle some salt and burn them on the spot. To be continued, shortened again. Chapter 213 Your father is a scam. Hello, is Yao 0? Yes, hello, what's the matter? Oh, it's okay, I'll just check to see if I made a typo this time. Text, there are only a few dozen extra words, which will not be billed, so don't talk about making up the word count. Where is Kratos at this time? At this time, Kui Baldzi was still wandering back and forth on Rhodes Island, and blind Jiba didn't know where to go. He hadn't even seen one of the 3 goddesses of fate. To say that a good action game of the God of War series had to be added, the number of puzzle-solving elements is also 6, but there are really those kind of action game masters who need to recharge their IQ, such as my big cousin. You see, not only the big cousin, but even Kui Baldzi himself. The card is closed. Gaia. Didn't you say you want to help me? You tell me how to get there. Kratos yelled. Where in his life has he suffered such a big grievance? Whoever offended him will end well. Zeus, isn't bald Kui on his way to revenge now? Question mark. It would be a shame to say that a god of war was stumped by such a small puzzle. Gaia is also a pit. She was yelled at by Kratos, so she had to send a distant voice towards him. You have to believe in yourself, Kratos. These things can't stop your footsteps. Kui Baldzi was so angry that his veins popped up. Just when he was about to find something harder to smash the wall and walked over, a crooked road appeared in front of him. Cracks. So why didn't you mention such a good thing to me as soon as possible? Tang Yuan walked out of the crack with a lot of complaints. Arian was still sitting on his shoulders. Since you can provide this guy's coordinates earlier, then you should have told me sooner. I still want to take him to rebel on Mount Olympus. I told you I'm busy deciphering the world. Kronos seems to have premeditated it, and he has disrupted many key codes. If I want to get this world back, I have to decipher them all one by one. Arian closed her eyes and remained motionless, and opened her mouth to speak softly. Oh, so? Are you going to crack it openly now? Are you not afraid that Kronos will find out? I found a hammer. Kronos has been remade by me, and now the time in this world is still flowing, just because I changed to a brand new god of time. This time I changed to a Moravidian woman. Children probably won't rebel again. Where did Kronos go? It's dead. It's deleted without a single byte left. Well, it can't be said that there is nothing left. At least the new girl of the god of time is also called Kronos. Anyway, the former god of time god left a name, didn't he? I'll go. You guys are really ruthless. Just like that, Tang Yuan was talking with a little lolly on his shoulder, with a cigarette butt dangling from the corner of his mouth, and walked all the way to Kratos with dead fish eyes. Kratos looked at the man in black with a little girl sitting on his shoulder with a strange expression, and felt a strong sense of oppression from him for no reason. When he came back to his senses, he realized that he had held 2 swords in his hands at some point. Instinctive reaction. Does Tang Yuan care about Kratos' reaction? He came in front of this pure man, and then found that his height of 1.7 meters, was completely looking up to this, meter tall man, so he coughed dryly and took a few steps back, and only then did he get a glimpse of Kratos' whole picture. Oh no, that bald head is so eye-catching and still reflecting light, I really want to laugh. He bit his lip and tried not to let himself laugh. After holding back for a long time, he finally waited for the laughter to pass, so he stretched out his hand and slapped Kratos' call. Yo. Is the card closed? Who are you? Kratos didn't understand what this guy said. He only felt that the sense of oppression was getting heavier. He clenched the sword in his hand and pointed at the strange man in front of him. Period. Shocked. How can you be as virtuous as your father? Open your mouth and ask Li Siho, it's embarrassing. When Tang Yuan heard such a familiar question from the other side, he habitually uttered a Dakin dialect. My father. Kratos became anxious when he heard Tang Yuan's words. He has grown up and still doesn't know who his father is. He suddenly heard someone talking about his father and asked loudly, who is my father? In the soul of Sparta, his mother is about to say his father's name, but she probably kneels before she can say it, because usually Kratos will definitely shout if he hears a shocking answer repeated instead of a keeping silent. It can be seen that until the plot of God of War 2, Kratos didn't know that Zeus was his father. In the end, he defeated Zeus at the end of God of War 2 and was about to stab Zeus to death with a sword. Athena ran over to block the sword, and then said a bunch of nonsense, and then Kratos really knew that he was the son of Zeus, That's not important. Tang Yuan waved his hand. Anyway, your father is not a good person. Nonsense. Of course I know my father is not a good man. Kratos said about his father, as if he had forgotten the oppressive feeling that this strange man in front of him gave him. Although he still held the two swords in his hand, he relaxed his vigilance a little. I don't know who my father is when I grow up. If he is a good person, what am I? Oh, well, if you know who your father is, what are you going to do? Tang Yuan looked at him with interest and asked. What are you doing? Kratos raised the sword in his hand. Have you seen this salted fish? What? Tang Yuan looked confused. Abba, have you seen the sword in my hand? I see, you want to kill your father. Kratos didn't speak, but put the sword back on his back, turned around without looking back, and prepared to continue to get stuck. Forget it, I don't have time to waste with you. If you don't want to die, get out. Yo how, this temper is really just like your father's virtue. Tang Yuan looked at Kratos' muscular back, and sneered with a little envy. Kratos paused, but did not speak. Forget it, I'm here to help you. Tang Yuan appeared lightly in front of Kratos, and smiled at him. First of all, let's start by helping to report a letter. Sparta was attacked by Zeus. What did you say? Kratos was furious when he heard the news. He punched the wall next to him, and smashed through the wall with a boom. Does this count as destroying the game scene and forcibly passing the level? Question mark. Calm down, I happened to be there at the time, so Zeus was driven away by me. Tang Yuan pointed to himself. Let me introduce myself, I am the god of pretentiousness, Torn, because I don't like Zeus so I want to overthrow his rule, and you just want to take revenge, and I'm quite used to you, so I'm here to help you. Believe it or not, you can't beat me anyway. You drove Zeus away? Huh? Kratos snorted disdainfully. This time he really turned around and ignored this guy. Seeing his reaction, Tang Yuan sighed. You really don't believe me, do you? Well, let me prove it to you, let me go. Kratos only felt the darkness before his eyes, and came to a dark space, and standing next to him was the man who claimed to be the god of Pretentiousness. He looked around and found that the place was empty, only a few. There was a pile of objects of unknown use, furniture placed by Tang Yuan, piled up in the distance, so he asked, where is this? Tang Yuan ignored him, waved his hand again, and the two left the gap again and returned to Sparta City. It is convenient to have the coordinates. Tang Yuan can use the cracks to run around casually. Look for yourself. Here, how does it feel to go home? He appeared on the city wall with Kratos, pointing to the soldiers who were busy repairing the city wall not far away. So you are good at everything? I just don't trust people very much. What's wrong? My behavior of helping people without benefits seems too suspicious, right? That's fine, you can figure it out. Give me some benefits. Kratos ran to the city wall, looked aside, and then at the surrounding environment. His face darkened. Before he could speak, he heard the crowd cheering from under the city wall. Master Kratos is back. Oh. Long live. The god of war is back. Only then did he believe that he had indeed returned to Sparta, but he didn't know how Tang Yuan brought him back in an instant. He looked at Tang Yuan and said, this is really Sparta, so said that Zeus has come? How dare he run over to my people while I am away? What can I do? Zeus doesn't know you're not dead yet. After all, Gaia and the others hide very deeply. How about it? Have you figured it out? Do you want to go to Olympus with me? Just you. It seemed that Kratos still didn't quite believe in Tang Yuan's fighting power. Strictly speaking, I am enough alone, but taking you along is just to satisfy my bad taste. Think about it, all the gods there are your brothers, sisters, aunts and so on. Oh, sorry, it seems that you still don't understand. My brothers and sisters. Kratos seemed to think of something, but he was not sure. What do you mean? Tang Yuan smiled maliciously, and glanced at him. That's right, your father is really not a good guy, is he? How could he stab his own son to death with a sword? If that's the case, it's not as good as before. Shit straight into the wall, right? Zeus. Kratos gritted his teeth and said the name. It was really gnashing his teeth. Tang Yuan saw that his cheeks were bulging, and even a little worried that if he bites so hard, his teeth will be crushed. Looking at Kratos' reaction, it can be seen that Zeus is really not a thing. To be continued. Chapter 214. One incident. At this time, Zeus had just returned to Mount Olympus not long ago, and he was still thinking over and over again what the origin of that god of pretentiousness was. Why had he never heard of the existence of such a god? After thinking about it, he digressed. Well, the little girl sitting on the shoulder of the pretending god is very cute. I really want to invite her to see the goldfish. Hey, so Zeus is really not a thing, as long as he's beautiful. It doesn't matter who you are, even if you take off your pants. While Zeus was sitting on his throne and thinking wildly, under Mount Olympus, several figures stood on the ground looking at the towering mountain. Tang Yuan and Kratos will not talk about it. They don't need to explain what they want to do when they come to Mount Olympus. However, if someone they know sees the other guys, their eyeballs will stare out of their sockets. Let's just talk about the big man standing next to Kratos wearing gold and red armor and a beard. This guy has exactly the same mark as Kratos on his face, with a giant shield in his left hand and a spear in his right. Typical of Kratos, but armed. Anyone who has played PSP must have been in contact with the two God of War stories on PSP. Among them, the Soul of Sparta tells the story about this guy, Kratos' brother, Deimos. The meaning of this guy's birth is to take the blame for his brother. According to legend, when Kratos and Deimos were born, Zeus got a prophecy that the myth of Olympus would eventually be destroyed by a man with a mark on his face. The end of life. Just at this time Kratos and Deimos were born, and Deimos had a birthmark like a red tattoo on his face after birth. So Zeus sent Ares and Athena to capture Deimos, imprisoned forever in the death realm of Thanatos, the god of death. After that, in order to commemorate his brother, Kratos tattooed the same mark on his face as Deimos. It just catered to the description in the prophecy, so it is said that Zeus will not die if he does not die. After Kratos became the god of war, and before the second generation of the plot started, he had plans to find his brother. He traveled all the way, destroyed Atlantis, and killed the daughter of Thanatos, the god of death, and finally broke into Thanatos' domain all the way, and found his brother, but at this time, Xanatos, the god of death who lost his beloved daughter, came to seek revenge. The two brothers fought against the god of death, and Xanatos alone the big move killed Deimos, and Kratos went berserk on the spot. The performance in the game was infinite explosion and no rigidity throughout the whole process, and finally killed Thanatos. But, why did Deimos, who had been dead for a long time, appear here? Because of Arion, she really couldn't stand Tang Yuan's stalking, so she had no choice but to revive Kratos' family. By the way, she changed Kratos' fate of being killed by Zeus. In fact, it's not too much trouble, it's just a few more lines of code for her. Although Kratos is not a good man, he is also a good man with clear love and hate. Immediately, he was grateful to Tang Yuan, saying that from today on, I, Lao Kui, will follow you. If you tell me to go east, I will run to the right. If I kill Zeus, I will never kill Hera. Tang Yuan is not interested in Master Kui being his follower, because he doesn't look cute at all. Otherwise why would you think that his relative would be left in the world of inertia like this? But in line with the principle of not helping others for nothing, he still set a condition with Kratos. If he needs someone to help in the future, as long as he finds Kratos, Kratos must provide help unconditionally, and unlimited times. Kratos readily agreed, but Tang Yuan reckoned that he might not need help from others much. Tang Yuan raised his head and glanced at the unknown height of Mount Olympus, then glanced at Deimos standing next to him, and finally glanced at Kratos behind him who was saying goodbye to his wife and children. For some reason, he suddenly thought of Lin Xiaoyu, and in the next moment, he picked up a stone and slapped it on his forehead, and the stone was shattered with a click. Deimos stared wide-eyed at the actions of the man who was said to have revived himself, and asked, "What's wrong with you?" "It's nothing, just some unpleasant memories." Tang Yuan waved his hand and said, then took out another stone and patted it on his head. "The scalp is a bit itchy. I think I should wash my hair." He took the pictures of several stones in a row, but the figure of Lin Xiaoyu couldn't get out of his mind. He shook his head vigorously, forcing himself not to think about that bear girl. At this time, Kratos had bid farewell to his wife and daughter, stabilized the double swords on his back, and came to the two of them with a murderous look on his face, and said in a deep voice, "Let's go, I'm ready." "Eh? Tang Yuan, what is this doing?" Deimos stretched out his hand and scratched his shoulder. "Brother," he said that his scalp was a little itchy. As expected of the god of pretentiousness, he would hit his head with a stone if he scratched it. "I would definitely not be able to stand it." "Can't you wash your hair?" Kratos said that he has been bald since he was a child, and it is very convenient to wash his hair. He finds a rag and walks on his head and it is clean and reflective. He doesn't understand why other guys with long hair have scalp itch. Tang Yuan listened to the conversation between the two brothers, and the word embarrassed appeared on his face. Finally, he took out a brick and slapped it on the top of his head. After a loud noise, Lin's IOU finally disappeared from his mind. In fact, as long as everyone knows, generally when you try your best not to think about something, that thing will just forcefully drill into your mind. At this time, you just need to think about other unimportant things. That's it. Of course. You can also try Tang Yuan's method, find something to hit your head, but if you get a concussion, don't say I taught you. Okay, it's over, let's go. Tang Yuan waved to the two of them. I can't wait to make Zeus' beard into a mop. Wait? Shall we call the Titans? Kratos suggested. Gaia saved me, and the Titans are also eager for revenge. Don't let them get involved. The Titans are just using you. Think about it for yourself. The previous generation of God King Cronus could even eat his own children. Although Zeus is not a thing, he did it anyway. Isn't this kind of thing happening? Sure enough, giant cannibalism is an old stock handed down from ancient times. Tang Yuan shook his head, pointing to Mount Olympus in front of him. Just the three of us. I think this is enough. Well said. I like challenges. Demos felt that the act of three people killing Mount Olympus was crazy, but he liked it. Whatever you want. Kratos choked out the words, too lazy to listen to their nonsense. How do we get up? Tang Yuan pointed to the back of the mountain. Then there's the Styx River, and we can go up from the underworld. Anyway, this is not the first time you have gone to the underworld. You are familiar with the road. Maybe you can be a guide for us? But I have to tell you first that the gods of Olympus each hold certain powers. For example, if Poseidon dies, the sea will lose control and the earth will be flooded by seawater. If Helios, sun god, is dead, the sun will disappear, and the world will fall into darkness. If Hades is dead, everything will not die, and dead souls will wander around the world. Have you figured it out? Before Kratos could speak, Arion opened her eyes from work, raised her hand and said, I can arrange some spare gods to take over the positions, you just have to do it. Tang Yuan felt indifferent when he heard this. Sister, we are talking about killing your administrator, is there something wrong with your reaction? Arion shrugged her shoulders, it doesn't matter, anyway, after Kronos offended me, I plan to change the blood of these guys, otherwise everyone will really think that they are uncles. You just do it and deal with the aftermath, give it to me. Kratos couldn't help asking, I've always wanted to know. Who is this little girl sitting on your shoulder? Is it your daughter? Tang Yuan almost spit out his saliva, and shook his head quickly. If I have a daughter, I definitely don't want her to grow into such a character. This guy is my shoulder pads, you don't care about her. Anyway, she will stay with me these days. Those who don't talk much on their shoulders, just pretend she doesn't exist. Oh. Kratos nodded helplessly, thinking that these gods have more or less strange habits. To be continued. Chapter 215 New Enmity, Old Enmity. So, under the leadership of Kratos, the leading party, the three of them came to the underworld along the Styx River. The water of the river was flooded by the ancestors, and nothing could float on the river Styx, so only the ferryman Charon's boat, which was also flooded, could travel between the two sides of the river Styx. But I can't bear the fact that there is a creator god on the team. Arion first glanced at the crude rubber raft with contempt, and then stroked it. So when Tang Yuan threw the rubber raft into the river Styx, Kratos and Deimos were stunned. Forced, this thing can actually float on the water of the river Styx. So is that little girl of yours really just a shoulder pad? Kratos looked at Arion sitting on Tang Yuan's shoulder, his face very tangled. This guy is scary, as long as you know this, don't mess with her. Even if it's me, I have to show her face in this place. Tang Yuan also had a helpless face. This little lolly didn't know what to do. How long do you have to stay on your shoulders? It seems that the difficulty of deciphering a world is really not ordinary. Kratos nodded and understood. Although he generally prefers to use his fists to solve problems, his head is a good thing when his fists don't work. He can understand what he should know and what he should not know, as long as he's not mentally retarded. Is he Kratos mentally retarded? Obviously not. Then who is she? Unfortunately, Kratos is not mentally retarded, but Deimos may be. Kratos glanced at his brother indifferently, and cast a slightly reproachful look, but when he looked at Tang Yuan, his face was obviously full of curiosity. It seems that the two of you still want to know. It's not impossible to say, that's okay, strictly speaking, she should be. Tang Yuan scratched his head and thought for a while, and then his face turned pale. Responding in the affirmative, have you ever heard of Kronos? 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 You know, the last generation of god kings, the youngest son of Gaia. Kratos has been the god of war for so long, even if he didn't know all the gods of Olympus, but he can also remember the names and identities of most gods. Why do I always feel like I've heard this conversation before? Forget it. Anyway, you guessed wrong. Tang Yuan spread his hands. I'm talking about Kronos, the god of time, the god of inevitability. The one who gave birth to chaos, the god of chaos, together with Ankh. Oh, Kronos, you're talking about that guy. I seem to have heard of it. Kratos thought for a while and felt a bit impressed by the name, but I haven't seen him in person. Could it be the same as this kid? What connection does the girl have? Tang Yuan put on an indifferent smile. Well, Kronos was not the earliest god. Earlier, this little sister created Kronos. Strictly speaking, she is Kronos' mother. But when I found her, she had already lost her memory, and became the stupid look you see now. AWW. Let go. Why are you biting again? After hearing this, Demos let out a he, obviously not believing that this little girl would be the earliest creation god, but Kratos glanced at his brother, then at Arion, bowing his head thoughtfully. Look. Yes, Kratos, your family members have been dead for a long time, each ushered in their own end, and you have also seen your daughter in the world of bliss, so you also understand that in this case, to be able to revive your family, what level of guide do you think it might take to do it? Then not only Kratos, but even Deimos fell silent. This is the test of the supreme god, Kratos, if we can kill the gods of Olympus and kill Zeus. Tang Yuan shrugged his shoulders, and Arion sat on his shoulders and followed him. The world will usher in new gods, and that will be a world you like. First ask, what do you like? Me? What do I like? Kratos repeated Tang Yuan's question. He glanced at his hands that seemed to be stained with countless blood, then turned his head to look at his brother Demos, and then turned his head as if looking at his hometown of Sparta. He pulled out a smile that didn't look like a smile. I like what I like. Damn, I'm obviously the god of pretentiousness, okay? Your answer is too pretentious. Tang Yuan rolled his eyes at him, then looked at the temple of Hades not far ahead. Let's start with Hades. Well, that guy abused his power and ate the souls of many innocent people, and I remember when you were human a long time ago. Did you trek far to find the fairy fruit of Astrobius? Probably it was for the treatment of a newborn who was covered with abscesses, your daughter, right? I don't remember clearly. You're talking about a long time ago. Kratos nodded. Why did you suddenly mention this? There are online. If you are interested, go and see for yourself. The style of painting is awesome. Do you still remember when a big fireball fell from the sky in the Great Desert and killed your captain Nikos? Tang Yuan grinned and pointed at the temple of Hades in the distance. That fireball was actually thrown by Hades. Yes, if you don't believe me, you can ask him in person later. Just ask him about the fact that the gods each selected a warrior for a bet a long time ago. Bet. Kratos felt something was wrong when he heard this. What bet? What are you betting on? Of course it's a gamble when you're bored. The gods each picked a warrior, and then spread the plague in the warrior's hometown. Then the priest informed that only the fairy fruit of Astrobius can cure the plague. You were only a human being at the time, and unfortunately your daughter was also affected by the plague. Do I need to continue? You mean, the guys I met along the way who snatched fairy fruits with me were selected by other gods, and they were warriors like me? Kratos was awakened by his few words. Also, that is to say, the plague that killed most of the children of Sparta was actually spread by the gods. Smart. Tang Yuan fell silent after saying these two words, and was about to silently watch Master Kui lose his temper. Really. After Kratos figured out the details, he was so angry that he stomped his feet on the spot and stepped on the ground with a boom to create a huge crack. I angle your mother's Olympus. Although Demos was stunned, he could hear a general idea from the conversation between the two, and he was also annoyed. This guy has more positive views, and he is not as dark as Kratos. So the anger was probably at the innocent people who suffered for no reason just because of the gamble of the gods. How? Hades was also a participant in that gamble at the time, and then he cheated quietly. Originally, the big fireball wanted to blow you up, but it killed your captain Nyx. How? You heard what I said after that. Did the whole person burn up? Tang Yuan looked at Kratos and was about to get angry, complaining in his heart that Hades might die a miserable death later. Especially this Kratos. It is Kratos in his prime instead of Kratos who was weakened by the sticks after the opening of the third generation. Let's go. I'm going to uproot the entire Mount Olympus today." Kratos almost roared, and then took the lead towards the Temple of Hades over there. To be continued. Chapter 216. Believe it or not, I will hack you to death. I don't know if Hades knew that the three of them had broken into the underworld all the way. Anyway, when the three of them ran into the palace, Hades was standing in front of his huge statue, looking at the statue's chest. The hanging coffin was in a state of silence. Although Hades in the God of War worldview was ugly and wore a strangely shaped helmet, he could still feel his sadness from the current atmosphere. But Master Kui, who cares whether he is sad or not, he came here not long after entering the palace. When he saw Hades standing there, he immediately clenched his fists and walked forward. "Hades, I have something to ask you." Hades turned around and saw Kratos angrily striding towards him, so he smiled strangely. "Oh, isn't this God of War? What wind brought you here?" It seems that the gods of Olympus don't know that Kratos is planning to rebel at this time. It is estimated that Zeus attacked Sparta at night but met a big murderer, and he was scared back, so he couldn't afford to lose that person. Didn't say it, and didn't even tell the gods about Kratos. Although Hades is very disgusted, and even a little bit hostile to Kratos, Kratos killed his wife Persephone, but the gods can't just have disputes, and everything is going well. So he forced a smile anyway. Kratos doesn't care about his family and everything. Strictly speaking, Hades is still his uncle. However, the relationship between the gods in Greek mythology is a bit indifferent, so I won't talk about this. For example, Poseidon and himself Grandma Gaia gave birth to a giant Antaeus. If you count it this way, Poseidon is the step-grandfather of Zeus and Hades. After counting, Poseidon himself becomes his grandson, and his brother Hades is my uncle, so Hades may also be Kratos' grandparents. If you want to talk about family ethics in Greek mythology, it will only become more and more chaotic, and finally a proper result of a brain explosion. So Tang Yuan slowly lost his mind after thinking about this, and Demos stared at him for a long time, and finally confirmed one thing in his heart: this guy is definitely crazy. Maybe besides the god of prudence, there is another. The sideline is mad god. Edwina, meow meow. Here, Kratos didn't know that Tang Yuan was thinking about the ethical relationship of the Greek gods, but he pointed his sword at Hades without saying a word, and asked loudly, "About that game, not real." When Hades heard it, he immediately asked, "What bet?" Although he couldn't see his expression with his helmet on, he could still hear something wrong from his tone. Hearing this tone, Kratos understood that Tang Yuan was not lying, and the murderous look on his face became more and more intense. "So, is it true? You once thought about killing me, and then you accidentally killed me, our captain." Hades felt that Kratos' expression was not right, and looked at Tang Yuan and Demos who were following behind him, and while slowly backing away, he asked, "Who are those two guys behind you? Let me tell you first, not everyone can enter my majestic Pluto's palace." Tang Yuan and Demos looked at each other, shrugged and smiled. Kratos and he didn't intend to answer his question. So Hades turned his eyeballs under his helmet, spread his hands and walked towards him slowly, and let out a friendly laugh. "Oh hey, God of War, I think there is probably a relationship between us. There are some small misunderstandings, but it's okay. Come on, let's sit down there, drink some wine together, talk about life, talk about ideals." A gay man opened my pants chain. As soon as the words fell, Hades summoned the soul of a huge dragon from behind. Yes, there are dragons in Greek mythology, but the shape looks more like a huge sea snake, almost like a Chinese dragon, not like the limbs. After he summoned the dragon soul, he drove the dragon soul towards Kratos with a strange cry. But is Kratos so easy to sneak attack? He was on guard early in the morning, and seeing Hades' actions now, he knew what to do at this time. He raised his right arm equipped with a golden fleece in front of him. The golden fleece in the worldview of God of War is a protective arm, which can reflect damage. This illusory dragon screamed as soon as it bit Kratos' arm, and retreated a long distance with its mouth wide open. "Damn, this guy is doing it." Tang Yuan pointed at Hades and started yelling. While yelling, he conjured up a golden door knife and carried it on his shoulder, looking eager to try. "Boys, come on." After he finished speaking, he rushed towards Hades with a door knife on his shoulder, and the huge and scary golden translucent blade cut towards Hades horizontally. Although Hades looks so fat, he is still a god. At this time, he fully demonstrated to Tang Yuan what a flexible fat man is. He saw his stomach shrank, his buttocks turned up, his waist folded, and his whole body. The person is like a ball, rolling on the spot to avoid Tang Yuan's sweep. and daring to roll on the ground with so many thorns on his back, he really deserves to be the king of shaking em. But the stone pillar behind him was not so lucky. It received Tang Yuan's blow solidly, and cut it off at the middle like tofu. Damas saw that Tang Yuan had also made a move, so of course he couldn't just sit idle. Don't tell me, he was a mixed-blood man, and he grew up as a Spartan. Although he was taken away and imprisoned when he was young, this an unscientific tendon is not just for good looks. He rushed over with a giant shield and spear, and a shield hit Hades, knocking him out of his stumble. Soon the three of them surrounded Hades, and only then did Hades realize that God of War was determined to kill someone. Did you really think clearly about doing this? You should know what the consequences of this are. He slowly waved a pair of claws that emitted a faint light, staring at Kratos. His tone full of it was shock and anger. Are you really so naive as to think that you can fight against the entire Mount Olympus by yourself? I'm too lazy to think about that. Kratos spat and replied. Hell, that's not a good answer. Hades knew that he might not be able to run away today, so he grabbed the claws with both hands and swung them a few times. At this time, the surrounding environment also changed. Suddenly came to the river Styx. Kratos stared at Hades, and said in his mouth, the gods have treated me like a fool. They have always treated me as a pawn, as a small tool that is thrown away after use. I will let everyone God paid the price for this. And you, Hades, you are not the first god to be killed by me, nor will you be the last. Go down to a deeper place to accompany your nephew Ares. He waved the two chain blades, Athena's blade, in his hand, and rushed towards Hades with a roar. The underworld, which is lifeless all day long, is finally a little more lively today. To be continued. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217 Resurrection, My Warrior. Ola 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 ola. Wood, big, 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 big. Hades frantically waved his claws at Kratos, and Kratos waved the Athena blade at the same speed, blocking Hades' attacks one by one. The golden blade of Athena's blade exploded in midair, and the weapons of two colors seemed to be drawing meaningless curves, constantly flying around the two of them. Tang Yuan squinted his eyes and watched from the side, thinking in his heart whether he should take out his mobile phone to take a picture of this amazingly cool scene, and stood motionless on the spot with a golden door knife on his shoulder. Demos looked at the battle situation, eagerly looking for an opportunity to cut himself into the battle. It didn't take long for Kratos to find a flaw in Hades, hold the Athena blade tightly, and kill Hades. The ghost claw on the right side that was flying towards him knocked to the side, and only heard a bang, and the ghost claw dragged a long chain and flew aside. Hades saw it and quickly stepped back a few steps. With a tug of his right hand, he dragged the chain, trying to pull the underworld claw back into his hand. At this time, Kratos shouted, Demos. Oh. Demos also responded loudly, holding up the spear in his hand. The spear emitted a burst of intense red light. The red light became more and more intense, and it accumulated to a dazzling degree in the blink of an eye. Then Demos roared and threw the spear that seemed to be covered in blood towards Hades. At the same time, there was a burst of red light in his hand, and a new spear appeared in his hand. The two brothers cooperated very well in battle. When they got together with Thanatos at the end of the Soul of Sparta, it was Kratos who found the right time to direct Demos to throw the spear. Hades' attention has been on Kratos in front of him, and he has just caught the flying claws. How can he notice the spear flying beside him? If it weren't for Kratos' roar, he would have almost forgotten that there were two people beside him, but he didn't have time to react. Although he took a small step back, he was still pierced by the spear abdomen. Not to the knee. After Hades became huge, he kicked towards Kratos, as if to kick him into pulp. However, he forgot one thing, that is, in front of God of War Kui Yi, the bigger the enemy, the faster he will die. After he kicked the ground, he stood there and looked around in a daze. How could there be any Kratos? Only the two guys who came here with Kratos not far away were standing there looking at this sight in a daze. Immediately afterwards, there was a sharp pain in the neck. He roared like a wild beast, and at the back of his neck, Kratos ran onto his back at some point, and the two chain blades wound a giant Hades' neck several times. He was clenching the two chain blades tightly, pulling them back crazily, in an attempt to tear Hades' head off. I curse you. The ghost of Sparta. Curse you. When you die, you will be 1,000,000 times worse than me. My brothers will avenge me. Hades struggled frantically, but couldn't catch it at all. Before reaching his back, a bloody wound gradually appeared on his neck, blood gushed out from it, and his voice became weaker and weaker. Hearing what Hades said, Tang Yuan somehow remembered another sentence: "It's useless even if you defeat me, I'm just the weakest of the 4 heavenly kings." In the end, Tang Yuan seemed to vaguely hear an extremely weak Persephone from Hades' throat, followed by the sound of bones and flesh being torn apart. After wringing Hades' head off, the headless corpse fell to the ground weakly spurting blood, fully showing Tang Yuan what an adult-only game is. Why do I always feel like I'm going to die so easily? Tang Yuan looked at Kratos, who was waving Hades' head as if he was showing off his military exploits, and muttered in his mouth. Immediately afterwards, countless dead souls poured out from Hades' mouth and neck. The battle was more violent than spurting blood. I don't know how many souls Hades usually eats in one meal. No, it should be said that the point is that this guy has nothing to eat, so much soul for what? Anyway, Hades is dead, and the whole underworld is boiling, because the Hades who controlled the dead has died, and now the souls are completely free. Tang Yuan always felt that he heard a certain soul shouting, "It's like a carnival. Long live my great underworld. Hey." He patted the little girl sitting on his shoulder. "It's your turn, hurry up." Arian came back to her senses and glanced at him. "What are you doing?" Tang Yuan pointed to Hades' body over there. "Pluto is dead. Dead people are flying around. No one cares. Why don't you hurry up and find a new Hades to take care of this matter?" "Oh." Arian nodded, then snapped her fingers towards Hades' huge corpse over there. After the crisp snap of fingers, Hades' body began to shake violently. Seeing the movement, Kratos quickly threw his head away, grabbed the 2 swords and looked at the corpse with a vigilant look. Crack, creak, there was a sound of something being torn apart from Hades' corpse, and the shaking of the corpse became more and more intense at this time. Tang Yuan always felt that there was some kind of deja vu. "I feel like I've seen this scene somewhere before." In the end, there was a pop on Hades' chest, and a hand made a cut in the chest of the corpse and stretched out. The hand that was originally covered in blood was extremely smooth and white. After the hand stretched out from inside, it touched the surroundings, and then stretched out another hand from the opening. Looking at this scene, Tang Yuan felt goosebumps. It was too heavy. He finally remembered where he had seen a similar scene. "Alien, sir." Just when he was thinking about the alien, Hades' body over there shook to an exaggerated level, and then a big hole was completely broken in the chest, and then a lolly slipped through it out. "Huh?" Tang Yuan glanced at Arian, who was sitting on his shoulder, and then at the lolly over there, wondering why these 2 guys looked so similar. Arian seemed to see what he was thinking, and replied, "Use waste, directly use this corpse to conceive a new one. Also, I am too lazy to pinch my face, just follow my template and adjust the facial features a little." Gone. "Oh, what's this guy's name?" "Hades. Puff. So Hades, you died so badly, I can't rest in peace." Exclamation mark. Kratos over there was also shocked by the little lolly that got out of Hades' body. He glanced at the little lolly, and then airily sitting on Tang Yuan's shoulder. And looked at Tang Yuan for the last time. "What is this?" Tang Yuan scratched his head and forced a smile. Arian directly recycles Hades' corpse to create a new Pluto. Just a little girl. Kratos also felt a little indifferent, but after all, he was not very interested in this, so he didn't express any opinions. He shook his head, put away his double swords, and squatted in front of this new Pluto. He turned his head and asked Tang Yuan, "What's this guy's name?" "Hades." Kratos had a "you're kidding me" expression on his face. "I can't help it, Arian is so lazy, she didn't want to pinch her face, so she got an unlucky child who looks so similar to her, and then she didn't bother to think of a new name, so." "Hey, actually, if you think about it from another angle, isn't the name Hades very nice?" Covering face, Kratos felt that there seemed to be some ideological gap between himself and this guy, and he couldn't understand this guy's thinking at all. To be continued. Chapter 218. Ms. Driver, Poseidon. Hades is dead, and the name of the newly appointed Pluto is Hades. You just need to smile at times like this, right? Tang Yuan gave Ailion a thumbs up. Stable. That Hades over there has been sitting there in a daze since she got out of Hades' body, not knowing what she was doing. Just when Tang Yuan thought that the unlucky child forgot to bring his brain when leaving the factory, he suddenly felt the surrounding it's quieter. It was really much quieter. Originally, without Pluto's restraint, the dead souls were flying around and it was really exciting. Tang Yuan's ears were filled with all kinds of screams that made people's ears spit. As a result, those screams disappeared in an instant. When he looked up at the sky, how could there be any dead souls? Everything seemed to be refreshed and disappeared completely. Where are those dead people? Why are they gone? Tang Yuan looked back and forth, but didn't see any dead souls. At this time, Hades, who was sitting motionless on the ground over there, raised her hand and replied, "Breach of discipline, all of them go to the river Styx for 3 days, don't you want democracy and freedom?" Demos became interested as soon as he heard it, and squatted in front of Hades, looking at the little girl. "So you can talk." Hades stared at him with a pair of big lifeless eyes, and then returned to the state of being motionless. That kind of meaningless and fluctuating eyes really makes people feel a little numb. So this Pluto either has a brain problem, or has a personality problem. Tang Yuan asked AI Leon, "What's wrong with this child?" Ariam tilted her head and looked innocent. "I made it like this on purpose. After all, the underworld is not a place where people can liven up. Naturally, I want to design the character of Pluto to be quiet. I'm a chatterbox, and after sitting in the ground for a few days, I feel too idle, so I ran out to find someone else to play with. That would be skipping work, neglecting my duty, and someone must be in charge of the underworld, so I did this. It is very necessary." So this unlucky kid has no brain problems. Tang Yuan pointed at Hades and said, "But the Pluto lolly picked up a rock and hit her on the head." Well, knowing how to fight back after being scolded by someone, it seems that there is no problem with his brain. Okay, Hades has been dealt with. Who is next? Tang Yuan covered his head and walked in front of Hades, stretched out his hand and hit her on the head with Duong. This little lolly deserves to be designed as a quiet, 3-no attribute. He didn't even yell, just stretched out his hand to cover the big bag above his head. His face was expressionless from beginning to end. Kratos glanced at Hades, who was covering her head with one hand and dragging the wreckage of Hades with the other hand, and was about to throw it into the Styx, shook her head, and pointed upward, to the Olympians. "As long as I advance to the top of Sea Mountain, as long as there is one who hinders me, I will not stay." "Hey? What if no one dared to stop you?" Tang Yuan asked. "Cowardly rats have no value for me to cut." Kratos left this place after leaving this sentence. It is unclear where everyone is in the underworld now, because Hades changed their hands when Hades did it before. In this scene, they are not currently in Hades' palace. Several people took Tang Yuan's inflatable rubber raft that had been sailed up the Styx River upstream, and finally came to a place similar to a pier, got off the boat there, and looked not far away. Hades' palace is there, and everyone just entered it not long ago. Strictly speaking, it is already Hades' palace now. Kratos said that I am familiar with this place, and brought a few people to the elevator-like place next to the palace. Anyway, there are various black technologies in God of War, and some things cannot be restored by current human civilization. It's not unusual to have an elevator. Everyone walked into the elevator, and then Kratos ran to the side and snapped the huge lever switch, and the elevator creaked and took everyone up. I don't know how long the elevator took. Anyway, after Tang Yuan smoked 2 or 3 cigarettes, the elevator stopped. Everyone came out and found a wide platform built on the mountainside, and beyond this platform, there is an endless sea below. Come on, judging from this process, the next one should be Poseidon, who has no chance to escape. Now the question comes, where is Poseidon? Kratos didn't stop, walked straight to the other side of the platform, and said without turning his head, "They don't even know that we are here. Poseidon may still be doing that with his own daughter in his palace. It's not certain. Let's go." The problem is. Well, Lao Kui, look over there. Tang Yuan paused and pointed beyond the platform. On the distant sea level, there is a huge mysterious object emerging from the water. Rushed out, and quickly approached the platform. It was a huge humanoid creature. Its whole body seemed to be made of seawater, its upper body was humanoid, and its lower body was the tentacles of sea creatures. Although it didn't look too heavy, it definitely wasn't pretty either. Kratos had been the god of war for a while, and he must have known the huge guy in front of him, so he stood on the edge of the platform and yelled loudly, "Poseidon! The person who comes is the best Ms. driver in Olympus in the God of War series, the owner of the Poseidon water battle mecha, Poseidon, in the game because the mech was destroyed by Gaia. He was killed. Kratos was dragged out of the Ms, and the driver without the Ms was weak, so the generation of Poseidon was tortured to death by the second God of War, Kratos, and he was dug alive before his neck was twisted out of 2 eyeballs. In the game, the perspective of Poseidon's number 1 is used to control Kratos to hang and beat self. Everyone who has played said it hurts. After a while, the huge water battle mecha came to the platform, and Tang Yuan always felt that it had a strong sense of sight. Fighting a huge boss on a huge platform, isn't this really a game flow or something? Question mark. He even felt that there might be a handle or something outside the screen controlling him. This Poseidon-shaped water battle mech, well, no more talking. This huge water avatar came to the platform. The huge face couldn't see any expression, but the huge mouth seemed to be able to speak. Zhang Yai, but a voice came from his chest. Spartan. You will regret what you have done. Kratos was not afraid of Poseidon, but what he didn't understand was how his group was exposed, but that didn't matter, so he shouted loudly, "Go away. Otherwise, I will let you end same as Hades." There was no anger in Poseidon's tone, but it was by no means kind. So Hades is dead? It seems that even Zeus couldn't fully see what happened up and down Mount Olympus. I told that idiot a long time ago, obviously I am more suitable to sit on the throne of the God King, but my 2 stupid brothers just don't agree with my point of view. It doesn't matter, at least I want to avenge my brother. Go to hell, Spartans. After finishing speaking, Poseidon picked up the huge trident in his hand and poked it towards the crowd. Looking at the huge halberd tip that seemed to penetrate the earth, Kratos and Deimos knew they couldn't resist, so they prepared it in advance. He was ready to dodge, but at this moment Tang Yuan looked at the huge Poseidon water war mech in front of him, and suddenly thought of something. So he looked at the trident that was getting closer and closer to him, and shouted, "The majestic and deep power of the earth." As soon as the words fell, a huge golden human figure appeared out of thin air, stretched out his hand to catch the white blade with his bare hands, and clamped Poseidon's trident. It was the huge golden Tang Yuan that had appeared once before. Demos looked at the battle from a long distance and exclaimed, "My God of War. What is that?" Kratos glanced at his brother, and said calmly, "Ares died a long time ago, and now I'm the God of War, so don't scream, and I don't know what it is." Tang Yuan mainly remembered the scene in the game where Gaia raised his fist and beat Poseidon fat. Yeah, and have fun in the water with Poseidon. To be continued. Chapter 219 Comrade Poseidon and number 039, S heroic sacrifice. The huge golden Tang Yuan overwhelmed Poseidon's arrogance as soon as he appeared on the stage. This towering giant grabbed the trident with one hand, raised the other hand high, and drew a huge arc with his clenched fist. With a roar of the star Ola, a fist hit the stomach of Poseidon's water incarnation, and there was a loud boom immediately, as if 500 mountains collapsed at the same time. Poseidon's water incarnation with a scream. Maybe if this guy's avatar is injured, his body will also feel it, and he will scream when he's beaten by Yi and Gaia in the game. He opened his mouth and spewed out a large stream of seawater, and retreated several hundred meters. The golden Tang Yuan grabbed his own body, Tang Yuan, on top of his head with one hand, stretched out the other hand to the platform, and shouted, "Kratos, jump on my hand." Gaia learned. When Kratos saw the scene, he felt that it was so powerful, and he also wanted to insert a hand, so he jumped up and jumped onto the back of the golden Tang Yuan's hand. "Come on. I'll show you today who is the strongest pilot in the Federation." Tang Yuan on top of the golden Tang Yuan said loudly, controlling the golden giant under him to wave his fists at Poseidon's avatar of water rushed over. Demos stood on the shore with his eyelids propped up, watching the battle at sea with a face full of sadness and joy, with a bleak smile on his spear. "So what am I planning to do here?" The huge golden Tang Yuan didn't know the structure of the throat, and let out a strange cry of "Ola Ola 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 Ola" like a normal person, and waved his fists in the air for a while. Watching it was as if there were hundreds of hands, and the hundreds of huge fists had only one target, and that was the face of the water incarnation of Poseidon. Poseidon didn't have the ability to block the fists and scream "Yuda Yuda Yuda Yuda." This guy was beaten by overwhelming fists and roared in his mouth again and again, "Oh! Ah! Ow! Ew! PFFT. But at least it is the incarnation of the sea. The attack power may not be that strong, but the blood is definitely so thick." Tang Yuan spent a long time there. Ola, But he couldn't destroy the incarnation of water, so he ran towards the person who was on his shoulder. Qiyi said, "Kratos, that guy's body is in the chest. I will find a way to destroy his chest later, and you take Poseidon out of it at that time." And Kratos responded, and climbed back onto Tang Yuan's fist a few times, stabilizing his figure. So Tang Yuan took a horse gait, and shouted again, "Extreme flourish and profound truth, heaven and earth bow on fist." His fists, which received power from his waist, emitted a dazzling golden light, and his fighting spirit was separated from his body. At least he had to reach the cultivation level of a great swordsman. In the martial arts department, because of the sharpness of his attacks, a boxer's combat power will always be stronger than that of a swordsman. Fighting professions of the same level are stronger than one level, and there are gains and losses. A boxer must reach the realm of a holy level strong man to freely control the overflow of fighting energy. From this point of view, Tang Yuan is at least a holy level strong man. Exclamation mark. Okay, stop talking nonsense. His earth-shattering punch seemed to have reached the speed of light in an instant. One moment before, his fist was still tucked in at his waist, and he was doing the movement of accumulating power. The next moment, he had already stretched his entire arm straight, and he had finished punching. Actions. Poseidon's huge water avatar was directly hit in the chest by this punch, like being hit by a train enlarged in the same proportion, and the whole person flew backwards crazily, but in the process of flying out, this incarnation of water has already begun to slowly disintegrate and become ordinary seawater. Because at this time, Poseidon had been pulled out of the avatar of water by Kratos, and the god of war was holding Poseidon's neck like a cat and standing on the huge hand of the golden Tang Yuan. As I said before, the pilot without Ms is a weak chicken. Poseidon doesn't look like a Poseidon at all. He was hit several times, his head was bleeding, and the blood got into his eyes, so that he couldn't open them. So I said a long time ago that keeping you is a disaster. When you destroyed my beloved Atlantis, you should have died with her in the bottom of the sea. I will return to chaos, and you, the ghost of Bada, you will die under the lightning of Zeus. After you die, your soul will have no destination. You can only wander around in confusion in the world until you die. Destroying Atlantis in God of War, it's not Zeus, but Qiyi. This plot comes from Spartan Soul. Kratos listened to his vicious words, the expression on his face became more ferocious. He grabbed Poseidon's head, put his face in front of his face, spit and said, "Even so, that's what happened after you died. It's over. Go and accompany your beloved Atlantis." Then Tang Yuan watched from a distance as Kratos picked up Poseidon and beat him up, finally gouged out a pair of his eyeballs, and then twisted his head like this. It was even worse than twisting Oreo. It easily turned Poseidon's head 180 degrees. Unless Poseidon dared to admit that he was made of water like a woman, otherwise he would have no hope of continuing to live with his neck twisted like this. Well, wait a minute. Question mark. It seems that the incarnation of the sea is not a problem if it is made of water. Question mark. Well, this guy doesn't have such a strong vitality. Sure enough, the moment Poseidon and Kratos' hands lay down and remained motionless, the sea around him seemed to go crazy, and the uncontrolled sea level began to rise. It seems Poseidon is indeed dead. At this moment, Tang Yuan glanced at Arian, who was sitting on her shoulders and was still working on world deciphering with her eyes closed, and squeezed her little hand and said, "Hey, hello. Stop making trouble, I know." Arian patted his head impatiently, then reached out and snapped her fingers at Poseidon's corpse again. After this crisp snap of his fingers, Kratos also understood what would happen later, so he made mental preparations early in the morning. Sure enough, within a few seconds, Poseidon's body shook violently like Hades. Go up to penetrate as many people as possible. PFFT, then, just like Hades, one hand poked a big hole directly from the chest of the corpse, and then accompanied by the sound of flesh and bones being torn, the hole became bigger and bigger, and finally drilled through it. A little lolly came out. When Tang Yuan saw the situation, he covered his face and didn't say anything. As expected, another little lolly, and judging by that appearance, it's not much different from Arian. So Arian, how lazy are you? Question mark. Can't you spend a little more time pinching someone's face? Question mark. It's over. After today, the gods of Olympus may all have to work with the same face. He glanced at the little lolly who got out of Poseidon's body with a tangled expression, then looked at Arian with a tangled expression and asked, "What about this?" What's the name of this unlucky child? Arian also got tangled up. Poseidon? This name doesn't seem to be easily translated into a more feminine name? Poseidon? No, it's too stupid. Poseidon? Oh, sounds more silly. Come on, you may be the best creation god I've ever seen. Tang Yuan felt that this guy was the only one who was still a creation god. To know a creator god, you don't need to know anything, but the most important thing is to be proficient in pinching face and naming. Let's just talk about Zalubia. That girl's ability to choose names is really amazing, and she can come up with many good names at will. For example, she was planning to name Lin Xiaoyu's child who was tragically aborted Tang Shen. Cough, where did you hear this name? Don't worry about these details. At that time, Tang Yuan almost turned his nose when he heard the name, and he was still Tang Sen. Question mark, if your surname is Li, why don't you just call him Li Xian? Question mark. By the way, why are they all female names? At this moment, Arian seemed to think of something, and clapped her hands. Yes. Huh? Yes. Tang Yuan stared at her. What's your name? Porcellus. You? Well, I knew it. Well, after thinking about it for a long time, it turned out to be based on Poseidon as the prototype. Therefore, with a creation god like Arian on the table, this new generation of Olympus lolly gods can be regarded as the sin of 8 lifetimes up. To be continued. Chapter 220. This is simply an account book. After overthrowing Poseidon, everyone continued to move towards the top of Mount Olympus. As for the little Poseidon lolly named Porcellus just out of the factory. It's not bad, at least not like Hades who can't get a fart with 3 sticks, at least she can still express on her face. What expression? She kicked the wreckage of Poseidon next to her with a look of disgust, and then took a standard leap of faith and jumped into the sea without a trace, and then the crazy sea returned to normal in an instant. It seems that this little sister successfully took over Poseidon. Seaton's job became the new Poseidon. Walking up the stairs on the other side of the platform, everyone passed through a residential area. This seems to be the place where mortals who serve the gods live. God knows if there are mortals living on Mount Olympus in the original Greek mythology anyway. Tang Yuan saw that this residential area, which was not much bigger than the village, was now lifeless, and no one knew where to go. Just when he was still wondering, a large group of miscellaneous soldiers ran towards him. That's right, since the gods already know that Kratos and his party have come to rebel, they will definitely take some action. These miscellaneous soldiers may just delay a few people's time, and the real role must be in the back. You know a god is a boss battle. In the original game alone, Kratos killed several gods. Let's get rid of the titans first, so let's summarize the gods of Olympus. Poseidon, let alone, Poseidon, the strongest driver in Olympus, has been beaten to death by Kratos. Hades, Pluto, the eldest brother of Zeus and Poseidon, if you want to say, this guy has not done many bad things. Zeus, the Alexander Dumas in Greek mythology, will not say much, just illegitimate children can circle the earth. Poseidon is a heavy taste, and there are all kinds of monsters besides the girls who had an improper relationship with you. Hades also kidnapped the goddess of spring Persephone. It seems that he only get through this one bad thing and act like a nice guy the rest of the time. Helios, the sun god, and the real sun god, the one who drives the sun chariot, Apollo, etc. In fact, it was just that later writers convulsed and pushed him to the position of the sun god. Apollo is just a god of art, and it has never appeared in the God of War series. The only thing mentioned is the Apollo bow of the 3rd generation. Nicknamed the Apollo assault rifle. Helios' death in God of War may be the worst and most impressive, that is, he was ripped off his head by Mr. The palm of the hand is bright, so the head still retains the ability to glow, so it is used as a flashlight by Master Kui. Hephaestus, Vulcan, if you really want to say who is the real good guy among the gods of Olympus, if Hephaestus dares to admit that he is a bad guy, no one will dare to say that he is older than him. This guy looks a little ugly and is a lame man. Other than that, he has no shortcomings, has never done bad things, and all kinds of documents, what I can find, are all positive records about him. If it wasn't for Pandora's problem and Kuiyi's face-off, they might have become good friends with Kuiyi, instead of plotting against Kuiyi's failure and being killed on his own anvil. Hermes, the envoy of the gods, the god of commerce, the god of travelers, to put it bluntly, he just ran errands. In the game, he ran fast and slippery like an eel, but in the end, Kuiyi chopped off his legs. It's chopping off, not interrupting. Hermes is not his sister-in-law, Master Kui is not his father. Since the snake stick in this guy's hand represents medicine, after being killed by Master Kui, all kinds of diseases it started to spread everywhere. Hercules, the greatest hero, in addition to destroying King Arthur into a woman and Gilgamesh into nouveau riche, a certain Japanese factory also destroyed Hercules into a lolicon. The guy can be regarded as the most outstanding of all the heroes in Greek mythology. After his death, he went directly to the sky and became the god of Hercules. It is worth mentioning that a group of people shouted the name Hercules, Hercules. The title in Roman mythology, his name in Greek mythology is Heracles, Heracles, the emphasis is on Hera, because the name means Hera bestows glory, so C is fine, it reminds people of Hylaus Meli male sign. But a group of ignorant people say that Hercules is just a different transliteration of Greek mythology, but they don't know that they have already played in Roman mythology. See Heracles for yourself, it looks like a transliteration of a name, obviously Roman. The way of death in the game is very simple and rude. He was beaten in the face by Master Kui and beaten to death. Here there's nothing to say, classic shrew. Lord Kui didn't intend to kill her at first, but he just talked cheaply and called Pandora a little slut. For the role of daughter, although Pandora's father is Hephaestus, Hera's scolding is equivalent to calling Kui's daughter a bitch. Can this be tolerated? So the dignified third-generation queen was pinched by the god of war and gave a click sound with her hands, giving people a feeling of fuck, I'm dead. Kui acted worse than killing a mortal. Take it easy. Finally, there's Zeus, the classic image, which is basically the same as in Greek mythology, except that the mind is eroded by fear, leading to a lot of unreasonable actions, and the rest of the time this is the God King, the third generation in charge of the sky, the king of gods, the third generation of god kings who sow seeds everywhere to benefit the public. Did you miss Athena? Forget it, Kratos didn't kill that girl on purpose. Although she was eroded by the greed in Pandora's box after her death, she was a scheming person who didn't do many bad things when she was a live prostitute. Hey, why are you distracted again? Demos looked at Tang Yuan, who was obviously in the middle of a battle, slashing people with a knife in his hand, but his eyes were blank and he didn't know what he was thinking. He yelled at him, you have to follow the basic law even if your mind wanders. Huh? Sorry. Tang Yuan recovered from his contemplation, and only then remembered that he was still killing people, so he should be more serious. In fact, these are just a group of miscellaneous soldiers. Even if he stands still and lets them attack, he probably won't be able to break through the defense, but it should be some kind of obsessive-compulsive disorder, like playing a game when the game is turned on and the HP is low. But even so, most people still subconsciously don't want to get hit. So Tang Yuan also became serious, but just when he decided to get serious, he found that the only enemy present was a small miscellaneous soldier standing alone in front of him, the rest were all torn by Kratos. These miscellaneous soldiers don't know what's going on, they look like normal people, but they seem to have no thoughts at all, and they are thin and look like mummy. Take this miscellaneous soldier as an example, he is the only one left. Generally speaking, it should be a long time ago, right? However, this guy was still standing there, posing in a very powerful pose, uttering rule and room in his mouth, and he didn't look scared at all. Tang Yuan casually picked up the soldier and threw it into the sky. Immediately, the soldier screamed and became the world's first artificial satellite. I feel that we should be stronger. Tang Yuan saw the sound of footsteps coming from far away. Needless to say, it must be the second wave of miscellaneous soldiers approaching, so he turned and said to Kratos and Deimos, strong? No need, just tear all the enemies in front of you to pieces. Kratos said nonchalantly. Demos didn't speak, just tightened the spear in his hand, and glanced at the large shield in his left hand. Okay, you Spartans are awesome, okay? You are living war machines, okay? Tang Yuan looked helplessly at these two guys who were definitely not mentally normal in terms of fighting. Shaking his head, he waved his hand, and the huge golden Tang that had disappeared appeared again in front of the three of them. Tang Yuan jumped to the top of the golden Tang Yuan's head, and then shouted to the Spartan brothers who were looking down like two ants, "Doo-doo-doo, I'm leaving, is there anyone else who wants to get in the car? The old driver took me." Demos and Kratos climbed to the shoulders of the golden Tang without hesitation and sat down. So, is it fun to slap yourself in the face? Don't you two brothers feel a little embarrassed? I only have Zeus in my eyes, and I don't care about anything else. Well, that's good, Mr. Kui, you forcefully explained it well, it's so reasonable that it makes you speechless. I'll listen to my brother. If you don't have a sense of presence, don't talk. It's easy for people to forget who you are, and then they have to spend a long time thinking there before they can remember your name. Just like that, the golden Tang Yuan walked towards the top of Mount Olympus with steps that made the earth roar. To be continued. Chapter 221. The old driver overturned. The golden Tang Yuan is walking and climbing on Mount Olympus. That huge body reminds one of the previous generation of Olympian gods, Titans, but the proportions of this golden giant are very well proportioned, and it looks like a human scaled up in proportion, not as bloated as Titans. But it still has something in common with Titans, that is, the huge body gives people a strong sense of oppression. Just like now, the golden Tang Yuan bent down and waved his arms like pulling weeds. Suddenly, it was like a gust of wind sweeping fallen leaves. Countless miscellaneous soldiers were screamed and sent flying. Most of them hit the wall and turned into a puddle of meat. Good luck. She also suffered powdery fractures all over her body, and she is dead in this life. Yet, Tang Yuan stood on top of his head, no problem, and screamed strangely, "Destroy it! Destroy it! Destroy everything!" At this time, a burning carriage flew across the sky, and someone in the carriage yelled, "Shit, you!" Then a big fireball flew towards the golden Tang Yuan from afar. PFFT. A fireball as big as a car hit the golden Tang Yuan's face with an unstoppable momentum. This is a typical fireball technique that smears the face. It usually causes a critical strike, plus the damage of a headshot. According to the basic law, the golden Tang Yuan must have knelt down. However, after all, it was created by Tang Yuan with the power of God. This golden material is the hardest substance no matter which world it is placed in. A mere big fireball, even if it is a big fireball thrown by your sun god, is also useless, not cause any harm. After the violent explosion, the flames and smoke dissipated slowly, and the golden Tang Yuan still stood on the ground. Tang Yuan exclaimed in the direction of the fireball, "Dijia? Cough, Baba, what a joke, Helios. Hey, Lao Kui, didn't you save that guy once? Why did you pay back your favor of a villain? It doesn't surprise me to do such a thing." Kratos snorted coldly, and his murderous aura began to slowly emerge. Okay, so it turns out he's a real boy. Tang Yuan felt relieved when he heard it. He just pretended not to understand after playing the game, and stood on top of the golden Tang Yuan's head and stomped his feet. "I'm the best at it. It's masturbation. When Yang Yi was copying, I beat Sister Yao Xiang 7 times in and 7 out, making her face like an orgasm." Demos complained silently, "Although I don't know what you are talking about, and I don't know why I know these things, but I still want to say. Kazumiyuka did not appear in Yangyi Chao. You know too much?" Tang Yuan roared, "Love talisman, Master Spark." The golden Tang Yuan opened his mouth wide, and a thick beam of light gushed out from his mouth. What a mouthful. This strong light streaked straight across the sky and directly hit the sun carriage of Helios in the distance, only to hear a faint "Oh, I'm going." Followed by a boom with a loud noise. The sun carriage crashed into the roof not far away, and a mushroom cloud emerged. Huh? Mushroom cloud? Question mark. When Tang Yuan took the Spartan brothers to run to the plane crash site, before he got there, he saw a sudden darkness above his head on the way. When he looked up, the sun had disappeared and countless dark clouds enveloped him. Gradually, the sky became pitch black all around, and the onlookers looked like dreamin', and they couldn't see their fingers. Kratos and Demos looked at each other, and then looked at Tang Yuan in unison. What's going on? Helios has amplified his move. Tang Yuan shrugged. This is not a big move. If I'm not wrong, that guy probably crashed a fighter plane and blew himself up directly. Looking at the Spartan brothers who are already completely Spartan, Tang Yuan smiled, with a blame me expression on his face. Speaking bluntly, the sun god is just an old driver, and he follows the planned route all day long. I have almost forgotten my driving skills, so it is not surprising that I will be shot down. What I am really speechless is that this guy's combat effectiveness is so low that he will be killed because his carriage crashed. Blowing up really improved my posture. But it's not good, the game is almost as dead as it is now. Soon, everyone ran to the crash site, and they saw a sea of flames from a long distance away, and followed a dark trace that was rubbed on the ground not far away, and the sun god Helios was lying there. He didn't move at all. Judging from his movements and position, this guy should have struggled to climb out of the sea of flames, and then insisted on crawling forward for a certain distance. Finally, he couldn't hold on anymore and fell to his death on the ground. Why do I feel that we are so villains? Tang Yuan looked at Helios' corpse speechlessly. After contemplating it for a while, he choked out such a sentence. Lian's ass. You pervert. Why don't you run into the sewer to rape the ex-mouse? Arian was pinched by him, and she opened her eyes angrily and fiercely said bang to his head. Boom, a loud noise. It hurts to hear it. Stop making trouble. Your butt is placed on my shoulder every day. I have already sensed the approximate shape. What's there to be ashamed of? Tang Yuan rubbed his head. Except for a puff of green smoke coming out, he was completely fine. He grabbed Arian's little hand and squeezed it lightly, then pointed to the corpse of Helios over there. Here, the sun god is also kneeling, you can figure it out. Oh, I see. Da snapped his fingers. This time, Tang Yuan, Kratos, and Deimos were all mentally prepared, so they watched the corpse of the sun god over there with a blank expression the whole time, shaking and convulsing, and finally looked like an alien broke out of the body. There was a pop in the chest area, and then two hands were stretched out from inside, and as soon as he supported the opening with force, Helios' chest was stretched open. No matter how many times he looked at it, he felt really her mother's heavy taste. Then, as is the international practice, a little lolly emerges from it, and its appearance is extremely similar to that of Arian. I just knew. Tang Yuan covered his face and didn't know whether he should complain. He walked over and touched the little lolly's head, and asked Arian on his shoulder, so what's the name of this child? Helios. Isn't that a good name? I can tell, it's just a few syllables changed from Helios. Can you be a little more careful when you name it? Tang Yuan put his hand on the head of this little lolly he patted on the top, and said to the little lolly, did you hear that? This little girl with no morals named you Helios. From today on, you are the new sun god. Little Lolita Helios blinked her eyes, nodded, then rubbed Tang Yuan's hand together, showing a smile, then stomped her feet and flew into the sky. Not long after, the dark and cloud-covered sky suddenly bloomed. The brilliance came out, the dark clouds dissipated, and the bright sun shone down again. The Spartan brothers in the distance looked at this scene and were silent, not knowing what to say. Hey, brother, you said that since those two guys can directly create a new god, and they have such a strong combat power, why did they accompany us to Mount Olympus to mess around? Demos patted Kratos on the shoulder and asked. Kratos stared at the dead fish eyes and shook his head. Maybe it's boring. In fact, I'm glad that they just helped me complete my revenge. I just want to kill Zeus. No problem, I'll follow you wherever you go. Spartans never lie on the ground, do they? Brother. In fact, Kratos really guessed it right. This guy Tang Yuan followed Mount Olympus to mess around because he was bored, and Arian also accommodated him to a certain extent. If you really want to change the blood of the Olympus gods, it's just a matter of waving your hands and moving your head. Maybe Arian also wants to cooperate with Tang Yuan according to Tang Yuan's temperament, and maybe she wants to show her favor. Maybe the will of the first generation itself represents a very high status. Even if the wills have no desires, they will unconsciously want to have a good relationship with the first generation of wills. To be continued. Chapter 222 Hephaestus! Zeus stood at the highest point of the Temple of Olympus with his eyes closed. He can see what's happening anywhere in the world from here, but it doesn't mean he can know anything in the world, because if he doesn't see, he can only know when he sees, but at the same time he can only know looking at a place. At this moment, he was looking at the mountainside of Olympus, where the huge golden Tangedum led those rebels all the way up. Not long ago, the sky fell into a brief darkness. As the king of gods, Zeus certainly knew what this meant. Helios is dead too. He murmured, looking at the black-robed man standing on top of the golden giant, who looked exactly like the giant in his field of vision, with resentment on his face. A little girl was born in the body of the sun god, and then that little girl became the new sun god. It was the same in Sparta, and it easily bounced off my lightning. This man and the little girl on his shoulder, what is it about? Even for him, the king of gods, this kind of thing was too unimaginable, so that Zeus fell into deep fear again for a while. He thought about running away, but he had an intuition that no matter where he fled, the man will find him too, like a deadly ghost. The more you think about it, the more you think about it, the more you think about it, maybe this is the case? No, that guy is too dangerous. Hercules. Where is Hercules? Let him come to see me. Perhaps this has reached the critical moment that determines the survival of Olympus. Zeus thought so, and ran into the hall of the temple, yelling while running. At this time, the rebel group had already reached the halfway up Mount Olympus. Tang Yuan raised his head, looked left and right, and clicked his tongue. I always felt someone was staring at me just now. It seems to have stopped now. He said to himself, then pointed to a gate in the distance, and said to Brother Sparta, go in there. It should be a melting pot, and Hephaestus is in there. That guy is a good guy, but he looks a little ugly, but he is ugly to a certain extent. You have to be mentally prepared. When he was still talking non-stop like a tour guide, he saw a boom coming from the door he was pointing at, and everyone looked over there, and there was a glare from the inside of the door. The flames appeared to be a violent explosion. Huh? Tang Yuan always felt that something was wrong when he looked at it. It seemed that he had never seen this part in the process of God of War 3. When he rushed over there with his Spartan brothers, he heard a voice coming from inside before he walked in the door. It's all your fault. At the beginning, you said that the Pandora's box is absolutely safe on Cronus' back, right? I'm so sure about your uncle. If Kratos hadn't opened the damn box, none of this would have happened. Spartans won't be God of War. My brother won't die. Olympus won't be invaded. And none of those weird guys helping Spartans. It's all your fault, cub. Daddy is very disappointed in you. Oh my god, this voice is Zeus. Listening to the voice inside, Tang Yuan hurriedly beckoned Brother Sparta to follow up. Shall we go in and see what's going on? Let's go. Kratos nodded, took demos and ran in with Tang Yuan. As soon as a few people walked in, they saw Hephaestus lying there covered in blood on the other side of the furnace, and beside him stood a strong old man with a bare upper body showing a pile of tendons. Who is it if he is not Zeus? Question mark? Zeus also saw a few people running in, and shouted at them, You. It's you. Are you dissatisfied with me? Let me tell you. In the name of Zeus, the king of gods, the end will be so miserable that even I can't even imagine it myself. It seems that the old man is really angry, but anger turns to anger. You should be cowarded. After Zeus said aggressively, he made a very awkward posture on the spot, and then disappeared. I ran away. Tang Yuan didn't mean to stop the old man at all. Of course, the final boss is to stay until the end to fight, so why worry about Zeus? Isn't it the same to stay and chat before leaving? Period. What happened to Vulcan? Kratos looked at the motionless Hephaestus over there, walked over and kicked his huge body twice. Huh? Let me see. Tang Yuan walked in front of Hephaestus, his eyes lit up with a golden light. Hephaestus Vulcan ugly. What the hell is that concept at the end? Question mark. Tang Yuan felt a deep malice. He took a closer look. Hephaestus god of forging ugly death? This guy is already dead. It seems that Zeus moved his hand. He reached out and knocked on Vulcan's corpse, but there was no response at all. Why did Zeus kill him? Kratos looked at the god of forging who had suffered for no reason, and touched his bald head. Who knows? Maybe it's because of the Pandora's box. Did Zeus just say that? If you hadn't opened the Pandora's box, none of this would have happened, and according to what Zeus said just now, the reason why Pandora's box was placed on Cronus's back was probably Hephaestus's idea, but it was not safe to put it there. You see, didn't you just climbed up to open that box back then? Tang Yuan shrugged, and reached out to pat Arion on the shoulder. Hey, Vulcan is dead too. Do it, I can probably guess the ending. Well. Arion nodded, the world's deciphering work has been completed for the most part. Maybe after you have finished tossing about these crap things, it will be almost the same. We can go back then. She stretched out her hand and snapped her fingers at Hephaestus. Then there was another burst of heavy-tasting visual effects, accompanied by all kinds of heavy-tasting sounds, and finally a little lolly emerged from Hephaestus' body. How many is this already? Tang Yuan looked at this little lolly who looked very similar to Arion with a black thread hanging on his forehead. Although he did not look exactly the same as Arion, these created little lollies looked like each other. Exactly the same, even the clothes are exactly the same linen dresses. Then how to distinguish who is who? Hang a small sign on your chest. Question mark. So, what name are you planning to give this unlucky boy? Tang Yuan took out a small anvil and a small hammer as soon as he saw this, and took out a red-hot iron bar from the magma nearby. The little lolly who started to jingle ding-ding knocked endlessly. This little lolly is a little different, and she wears an extra dirty blacksmith apron. Hestres? It seems that it has been changed so much that you can't tell what it has to do with Hephaestus, right? Arian said, biting her finger. It's up to you. Anyway, I think this group of unlucky children deserves to be a god of creation like you. Tang Yuan complained, walked over and touched the little girl of the new god of fire Hesterius. Then he took out a piece of terrastone from his bosom and stuffed it into the little Lolita's hands. Here's this for you. Let me tell you, this is a good thing. It's simply a treasure of nature. At 60 back in the, the weapon made by this thing was the lifelong desire of countless adventurers. Hesterius took the terrastone, sniffed it, and licked it again. She didn't know how she figured out what it was, and immediately cheered and hugged Tang Yuan's thigh vigorously. You guys are quite good at making children happy. Arian gave him a blank look. What? You wanted to? Come on. Tang Yuan also gave her a blank look, and said angrily, I really can't figure out what a guy like you is lacking. Why can't you make it yourself? Come out. That's true. Oh, what a pity, I don't even have the chance to be coaxed. Arian didn't know whether she really felt it was a pity or she was just pretending, so she let out a long sigh. Over there, Kratos and Demos watched Hesterius beating the red-hot terrastone. They always felt that there were too many little Lolitas they saw along the way, and they were about to open the door to a new world. To be continued. Chapter 223. So Athena also suffered, right? In this way, the rebel group went all the way, traveling around Inshao village with a full-level large size, blocking and killing gods and Buddhas, and whether it was Hermes or Hercules along the way, they all followed Tang Yuan's sentence ITM shot and got a lunchbox, and even a bunch of gods that didn't appear in the original game process appeared. That's right, after all, in the game Quibalzi fought with a group of titans on Mount Olympus, so Kratos is not the only enemy facing the gods of Olympus. In this way, there are only a few gods he can meet, but now they are the only ones who come to Mount Olympus to rebel. Naturally, they will be surrounded by all the gods. But, let's just watch. Anyway, Tang Yuan can do nothing about it, brush off his clothes, hide his merits and fame, and leave the ground full of mosaics. If the naked body sees it, maybe the mosaics don't even need to be banned directly, and a bunch of grim-faced little Lolitas cleaning, all of them look alike. Exclamation mark. If there are, of them, it is estimated that they can directly rule the world. By the way, the dustpan, broom, and tongs for cleaning are kindly provided by Tang Yuan. This is not to say that Tang Yuan is ruthless, and kills all those gods regardless of whether they offend him or not. The gods in Greek mythology are all top-notch, basically few of them are good things, and the only good guy Hephaestus was killed by Zeus not long ago, and some versions the Greek mythology seems to have said that Hephaestus once had a black history of trying to rape Athena. So that's it, it's completely for the people. It's more classy than those who abuse cats and refuse to admit that they are perverted, and have to cite scriptures to prove that cats are disaster beasts, and they are killing harm for the people, right? Question mark. That's why I don't bother to find an excuse. I just don't like one sentence. What? Tang Yuan said to the camera lens. Kratos glanced at him, frowned and asked, who are you talking to? Oh, it's nothing. Once in a while, you'll find that life is actually pretty good, he replied. At this time, the sun was about to set, and the cheers of a little lolly driving a carriage could be vaguely heard from the sky. It seemed that in time, this woman would definitely become the next old driver. A few people have already killed all the way to the top of Mount Olympus. Basically, the gods who can be named are almost finished, and those who cannot be named or who are just playing tricks in the myth are just a group of small characters. It needs to be taken care of. Perhaps because of this, Mount Olympus escaped the fate of being renamed Mount Lolita. Kratos came to the top of the mountain, looked at the small gazebo towering over there, and said nothing. He knew that the ultimate goal of his trip, Zeus, was there, and he was about to complete the mission of coming to Mount Olympus, revenge. Tang Yuan looked at Kratos' expression and knew what he was thinking. With a wave of his hand, the golden Tang Yuan under his feet disappeared, and they fell to the ground firmly, and then he yelled at Kratos, "Go, I won't follow you anymore." In fact, at this time, Tang Yuan didn't even have the heart to go to tease Zeus, because now he was very distressed. Why bother? Because he always feels like he has forgotten something again. Kratos stared at the small gazebo for a long time, gritted his teeth for the last time, clenched his fists and banged a collision, then dragged Demos and walked over there. "Let's go, brother, let's kill father. Maybe it's not just for revenge now. Zeus is no longer qualified to be our father." Deimos may be a half-god, but he will never be an ordinary person, not to mention he grew up in Sparta. What are Spartans best at? What the Spartans are best at is never fighting or killing. What the Spartans are best at is desperate! Exclamation mark. So Deimos happily followed his elder brother to prepare to kill Zeus. And at this time, there was a shout from behind, "Wait a minute. Stop. You can't go." Everyone looked back and saw a big sister in the shape of a big sister running towards this side in a panic, waving while running. Tang Yuan was immediately delighted when he saw the visitor. He finally remembered what he forgot, Athena. Athena didn't know where she came from. As soon as she stopped, she supported her knees and gasped for a while. She finally straightened up and waved her hands at Kratos. "Kratos, you can't go. You can't kill Zeus." "Oh." Kratos nodded. "I see, Deimos, let's go." After speaking, he pulled his brother and continued to move forward. "You can't do this." Athena was anxious, and when she was about to chase after her, Tang Yuan grabbed her. "Who are you? Let me go. I'm going to stop them." Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, was grabbed by Tang Yuan's arms and struggled repeatedly, but she was like a pickpocket shackled by handcuffs, unable to break free. "Who the hell are you? I've never seen you before. And what happened to the corpses of the gods I saw along the way? What about those identical little girls?" Tang Yuan glanced at Arion on his shoulder, and then smiled at Athena. He tried his best to make his smile look kinder, but in Athena's eyes, this smile looked like a river eel. "Zeus is Lao Kui's father, right? It's okay, I have already told Lao Kui, and you are also a goddess of wisdom. So many gods died but did not cause chaos in the world. What do you think is the reason?" When Athena was asked by him, she was taken aback for a moment, and then seemed to come to her senses. "You mean, those little girls took the rights of the gods? It's about the same. But this is not seeking power and usurping the throne. This is decided by the central government." Well, although there is always a sense of imperial decision, the facts are almost the same. As for you, to be honest, I read it when I was young. A certain cartoon has had a profound influence on me, and I always feel that you are a scheming whore. "Scheming? What? I don't understand." Athena put on a dazed face, and then began to struggle again. "It's easy to say anything, but can you let me go first? How decent is this?" "Oh, don't do it." Tang Yuan didn't let go of his hand, but lightly bumped Arion on his shoulder with his head. "Hey, Arion, what about this Athena?" "I see." Arion nodded, and just as she was about to reach out and snap her fingers at Athena, Tang Yuan reminded again, "This one is a little different. Strictly speaking, although he is not a good person, he is not a bad person either. You can keep her in this seat, so, I don't know, but I don't suggest you kill her." Arion glanced at Tang Yuan, then at Athena, who was dragged by him, tilted her head and thought for a while, and still snapped her fingers towards Athena. For Tang Yuan, this snap of his fingers basically decided that Athena's life was over, so he curled his lips and let her go. "Okay, don't blame me. What did she do to me just now?" Athena seemed to feel something after being let go, and reached out to touch her body. "I always feel, Tang Yuan watched her start to feel uncomfortable, and knew that there might be the scene that he saw the most along the way, but this time it was different. This time it was a living person and a pretty girl, so turning around with a little dismay, Athena began to scream, and there was the sound of clothes rubbing against the ground. She might have been rolling on the ground in pain. But why does it feel like her screams are getting more and more wrong? After a while, there was silence behind him, and Tang Yuan tugged at Arion. "Hey," I said, "is this a bit too much? Athena is slightly different from those gods. It can be counted. To be honest, she is really not a bad person, and in this timeline, she is not dead, and she has not been eroded by greed." Arion smiled. "It's none of my business. Well, I probably understand the difference between you creator gods and me." Tang Yuan felt that his relationship with AI Leon suddenly became colder, and he didn't want to say anything, turned around and prepared to clean up the wreck of Athena. "Hey." When he turned around, he did see a dazed little lolly sitting on the ground, but there were no extremely bloody things that should be mosaicked on the ground. And, this little lolly doesn't look like Arion at all, but looks like Athena? What's the situation? Tang Yuan pointed at the bewildered little girl and began to shake his hands. He quickly squeezed Arion's butt on his shoulder. "What did you do? I'm not dead, but don't you think it's against the law to say that there is an ant standing out of the crowd in the 12 small pots of Yazoo God? So I still have to move a little bit. AI Leon smirked and grabbed Tang Yuan's hands, who rubbed his hair hard. So what do you think I did? Huh? Huh? Tang Yuan didn't speak, but cold sweat started to break out on his face. Over there, Athena sat on the ground with an orgasm face. She was stunned for a long time, then came back to look at herself, touched herself all over again, and exclaimed, "I'm fine." That voice was so childish. Tang Yuan wanted to laugh when he heard it. Athena stood up, stomped her feet, and walked a few steps. She didn't feel anything unusual, so she turned around and said, "Hey, what did you do to me just now? How do I feel? Wow." She looked at Tang Yuan, who had suddenly grown taller in her eyes, raised her head and exclaimed, and then sat down on the ground because her head was raised too much. "How did you get bigger?" The air above is relatively fresh. Tang Yuan thought for a long time before he came up with such an answer. "Oh, so, I mean, you're all aboard? Mount Olympus is already at a high altitude, and the air quality is actually pretty much the same. Why do I always feel that after Athena became a little Lolita, her IQ also decreased? Is it because the brain has also become smaller? But why does it feel like Athena is a bit stupid? You are the goddess of wisdom, you cannot do that." To be continued. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224, The Fall of the God King. "Oh, look over there, it looks very powerful from a distance." Tang Yuan casually found a big rock and sat down, looking at the small gazebo in the distance. All kinds of special effects, thunder and lightning radiate, golden light blooms, and various special effects seem to cost nothing at all. One can imagine how exciting the battle scene between the Spartan brothers and Zeus is. Athena was sitting next to her on the ground. She didn't seem to realize that she had become a primary school student until now. Sitting there, she didn't know what to think. She stretched out her hand and tugged at Tang Yuan's trouser leg. "Aren't you going to help? According to Kratos and his brothers, there is no way to defeat Zeus." "Huh? How do you say this? If you want to defeat Zeus, you must first find the holy flame of Olympus, with the help of the power inside the Pandora's box and the holy flame," Athena said solemnly. Come on, it seems that Athena doesn't know that Pandora's box is completely empty now. She thought that the power Kratos got when he defeated Ares was the evil power in the box, but she didn't expect that the evil power, the power has long been scattered to erode the gods, and the power Kratos got is actually the power of hope. This is the most deceitful thing in God of War 3. Most of the process is looking for the holy fire. After finding the holy fire, you have to find a way to extinguish the holy fire. Just for this, Pandora was sacrificed in the end. However, Kratos did not know until the end. Pandora's box is empty inside. Not to mention Pandora's sacrifice in vain, most of the process seemed meaningless. Lao Kui had the power of hope from the very beginning, that is to say, even if he didn't care about that Pandora's box, he could still kill Zeus. Okay? Speaking of Athena, do you know that there is a little girl named Pandora? Tang Yuan glanced at the small gazebo in the distance, and the shocking sound and light effects seemed not to dim for a while, so turn around and ask Athena. Pandora? I know. Are you talking about the little girl Hephaestus made? Athena nodded. Together, speaking of which, Hephaestus died too? That little girl who claimed to be Hesperus inherited the position of Vulcan. Almost. I didn't expect Pandora to go to Hesterly's place. That's fine. It's troublesome to find her if you run around. Just let her stay there. Don't let her get close to the Olympian flame. That kind of thing makes no sense at all. What do you mean? Athena didn't understand what he said. Kratos doesn't need the power in Pandora's box at all. No, I mean, he doesn't need to open Pandora's box at all, because it's empty. Impossible. There's still hope in there that hasn't been released. Athena retorted. It was released early in the morning. Tang Yuan patted her on the head, but this once adult goddess of wisdom seemed a little repulsed by touching her head, so he withdrew his hand in embarrassment. At the beginning, Kiddo once he killed God of War, the power he relied on was not the power of evil, but the power of hope. The power of evil eroded the gods, but the power of hope was not locked in Pandora's box. It had already escaped at that time, is now on Kratos. Really, that's fine. Athena nodded thoughtfully. You see, Athena, who has not been eroded by greed, is actually pretty good, and she doesn't show much desire for the power of hope. Again, you said that the god of creation is sitting on your shoulder. She changed the subject and stared at Arian for a while. Why did she sit on your shoulder? Is it some kind of curse? Oh, it has nothing to do with a curse. Tang Yuan waved his hand. You think too much? Because of some kind of work, she has to devote herself to the things she is busy with now, so she found a safe place to stay. You're safe on your shoulders. It's not bad. Chuang Shishan is very powerful, right? In fact, I am almost as powerful as Chuang Shishan. In a sense, I am her brother. Do you think Anne is safe? Tang Yuan glanced at her, then tugged Anne's clothes. So, Arian, didn't you say you can finish it within today? The sun is almost setting. Hey, how long is it? Arian hammered his head. Don't make trouble. It's the final part of packing and signing, and it will be almost done after I paste the only designated email address in the lower left corner. Surprised? Why is it the only one who specifies the mailbox? I'm afraid I want my brother to feed you fragrant chicken. Be careful what you say. Wait for me for a few more minutes. Believe it or not, I'll come down and kick your ass. Arian glared at him, then closed her eyes again, and stopped talking. Athena felt that the words used by these two people were very strange, and she seemed a little unable to understand. Maybe it was the dialect of the god of creation, but she always felt a little stressed sitting next to these two great gods, so the butt moved sideways. From a distance, it seems to hear Kratos roar. Can you feel it? Can you smell it? This is the smell of revenge. This is not a beautiful thing, but it can calm my anger. If you can still retain consciousness after death, please repent to me forever. Then there was a violent explosion over there, a powerful energy surged out, and a strong airflow blew in all directions. Tang Yuan looked at the oncoming flying sand and rocks, and couldn't help raising his hand to cover his eyes. This moment was really terrible. The sky suddenly became crazy, although the sun was still hanging in the sky, but it made people feel extremely dim. Dark clouds covered everyone's heads, strong winds blew up, an indescribable sense of despair rushed over, as if the world was going to end. Zeus, is he really dead? Athena looked at the shattered pavilion over there with a complicated expression, not knowing how to react. That's right, and I guarantee that the old man must have died a terrible death. Tang Yuan said, seeing the Spartan brothers walking towards each other in the distance. He stood up, waved and shouted, "Hey, this way!" The two brothers stumbled over. Kratos was okay, but there were small bruises all over his body. Deimos was different. He sat on the ground with his hands on his thighs and began to pant. Fortunately, these two guys seemed to be quite vigorous. Nothing serious. Kratos kept a straight face and said nothing, as if he was still reminiscing about the scene where he killed Zeus just now, or he might just be distracted. Tang Yuan asked him, "It's fine from now on. But Lao Kui, do you have any thoughts about being the next god king?" Kratos shook his head. "I hate the king of gods, I even hate gods, I'm not right." Then there is no other way. Tang Yuan rubbed the top of Arian's head. "Hey, this is the last time, this time as the king of the gods, can you take a break? At least don't make another Misaka." Arian 233 is here, give the king of the gods a face. Okay. Arian nodded, then reached out her hand and gave a crack on her head, cut off a bunch of hair with her nails, and then rolled it into a ball and threw it on the ground not far away. Then this ball of hair seemed to take root, and it began to grow wildly, growing bigger and bigger, and finally grew into a hairy spherical object with a diameter of more than 1 meter, which looked like a egg. "What is this?" "Egg," Arian replied. The audience was silent. To be continued. Chapter 225. The fourth generation gods of Olympus. Mount Olympus returned to calm, as if nothing had happened. But careful people should be able to see that the dark clouds that have shrouded the mountain top all year round have dissipated, and the mountain where the gods live is no longer gloomy, and finally feels a little sacred. As for the scene on the mountain, it is quite different from before. 1, 2, push hard. 1, 2, push hard. Listen, those who don't know think this is giving birth. Tang Yuan was shouting slogans with a paper trumpet, and with him was a large group of little girls who looked exactly the same, each holding a rope, and the other end of the pile of ropes was tied to a huge statue on the statue. Statue of Zeus. Come on, do it again. Listen to my slogan, Tang Yuan shouted loudly while raising one hand. 1, 2, use force. Crack. Rumble. The little Lawless finally pulled the statue of Zeus to the ground. The huge marble statue was pulled off its ankle and fell to the ground and fell to pieces. Yeah, the little Lawless cheered, jumping up and down, looking very happy. Tang Yuan looked at this group of little Lollitas with a strange smile on his face. Behind him stood Arian and another little Lolita with big white curly curls. Why are they all little Lollitas? Question mark. This big white wavy curly is the one that hatched from that fluffy egg before. After all, it was not made by Arian's waist, but it was produced by hair, and it is far from the same in terms of appearance and strength. Higher than those lollygods born from the corpses of the gods. That's right, Arian forcibly changed the translation of the name Zeus and called it Zeus. It just sounds dull. Zeus naturally inherited the position of Zeus and became the fourth-generation god king of Greek mythology, in charge of the sky. But unlike the previous Zeus, this time there is no need to worry that the Sea King will rebel, because Neptune was set as a dry skin attribute by Arian. As long as he leaves the water for too long, he will feel uncomfortable all over. How damaging do you think it is? Question mark. But there are policies and there are countermeasures. Ever since she found out that she still has such a light hidden attribute, cute point, Basilisk thought of a way and asked Tang Yuan for a big glass jar. No problem, the ancient Egyptians in the sky have already researched glass, so even if Tang Yuan gave her this thing, she would not be afraid of tampering with history. She filled the big glass tank with water and let two giant pippy shrimp lift it up all day long. Now, there are two wooden poles fixed on both sides of the glass tank, and Pippy Shrimp lifts her up by grabbing these two wooden poles, looking like a sedan chair with a unique shape. Basilisk, you are really amazing. If your glass sedan chair is unearthed in the future, I don't know how many dungs will climax, clamoring that Greece has been a part of China's territory since ancient times. So I often see such a scene on Mount Olympus. Two red-horned giant Pippy Shrimps with 3 times the speed, one behind the other, are carrying a large glass tank, and a little lolly is soaking in the glass tank. So why Pippy Shrimp? Speaking of which, it has been several days since Zeus hiccuped. These days, Tang Yuan has been busy with Arian to help Lolita rebuild Mount Olympus. Some of the previous temples and statues have to be demolished and rearranged. But they are gods after all, although Arian said that she would not personally help. If she helped, she would just wave her hands, but at any rate, these Lollitas are also gods, and they are the same when they do these things, not too much trouble, so the reconstruction of Mount Olympus went very smoothly. Today, we have worked vigorously to the Great Temple, which is the place where the gods meet. After finishing here, it will be officially completed. Cough, cough. The statue of Zeus fell to the ground and raised a cloud of dust. Suddenly, a group of Lollitas were choked and coughed continuously. At this time, Boreas, the god of the north wind, stood up. It's okay. Leave it to me. Face the north wind. Then a gust of wind blew up, forming a standard cyclone with the wall next to it, and suddenly a small tornado blew up in the crowd, and the dust lying on the ground was also blown up, and the smoke covered the sky. The little Lollis coughed even harder up. Fuck you. You are helping more and more, and the toilet of Mount Olympus will be handed over to you next month. It seemed that Hera was talking. Of course not the previous Hera, Bocellus. Come here and sprinkle some water. Oh. Come here. Bocellus used a high-pressure water cannon. The effect is outstanding. Hit the nail on the head. Hera on the opposite side is dead. Tang Yuan looked at Lolly who was making a mess below, and couldn't help asking Arian beside him, hey, is it really okay for these little girls to manage Mount Olympus? Why do I always feel like the world is coming to an end? It's okay. I made it myself, don't I understand? Arian blinked and said to him, these girls are actually quite reliable when they are doing business. That's good. Anyway, this is your own world, so I'll just ask a little bit. Seeing that she wasn't worried at all, Tang Yuan smiled and didn't care anymore. At this time, a short figure in the distance approached quickly, and only when he got close did Tang Yuan see that it was Athena who was panting and running towards this side. After Athena ran over, she didn't even bother to catch her breath. Panting loudly, she pointed at Tang Yuan and yelled, You. Who? You guys are plotting against me. Who? Actually, it's not that you guys got bigger. But I got smaller. Isn't it? Tang Yuan and Ai Lian looked at each other, and they both saw the indifference on each other's faces. So many days have passed before you reacted? You said that this is a good goddess of wisdom. How can she become stupid after getting smaller and carrying her hand? Question mark. Is it really because the brain has also become smaller? I'm asking you something. You, hey? You, what's your name? God of pretentiousness, Tun. This is the first time I have introduced myself to you. Tang Yuan drooped his eyelids and looked at the goddess of wisdom, who didn't look like the goddess of wisdom at all. Can stop? If you don't believe your own brain, write it on your hand. When Athena heard it, she nodded repeatedly. Good idea, just wait a moment. Therefore, in all the Athena statues in later generations, this lolly has a name written in ancient Greek on her left hand. Exclamation mark. At this time, Tang Yuan didn't know what Athena had written on her hand, so the little lolly clapped her hands after writing her name. Okay, now I won't forget your name, hey? What did I want to find you? Well, that's a problem. Looking at her like this, Tang Yuan couldn't help but start to wonder if Arian's hand slipped when she made a move before, but it's too late to say anything now, so he waved at her. You came here to play with me, but I'm busy and don't have time, so you should go back now with a disappointed face. Oh, that's it. So Athena walked away with a disappointed face. This lolly is simply the best. Tang Yuan said that like this, he can lie back and forth on the bed hundreds of times. Wait, Athena, give them a message from me, and say that all afternoons in charge will go to the great temple for meetings. Zeus called to Athena, write down the words that you can't remember, and don't forget them. Do not forget. Know it. Athena seems to have forgotten who Zeus was before. Ever since she became a Lolita, she has adapted quickly to the current Mount Olympus, Mount Lolita, as if she didn't feel anything wrong at all. Maybe I really became stupid. I always feel that the goddess of wisdom should be replaced by someone else. So soon it was afternoon. Inside the great temple, there is a huge round table with the Olympus holy flame that was moved here in the center of the table. Sitting around the table is a group of in charge, that is, the original 12 gods, but now as if it was reformed, some adjustments were made, not just 12, the god king Zeus, the queen Hera. It seems that in order to show that she is the queen of the gods, Arian made her a little different. Some, Demeter, goddess of harvest and agriculture, Hestia, goddess of fire and hearth, Poseidon, god of the sea, Persephone, because Hades could not leave her post, Athena, goddess of war and mental retardation, Helios, god of the sun, Apollo, god of art, Artemis, goddess of hunting, Aphrodite, god of love and beauty, god of fire and craftsmanship, Hephaestus, the envoy Hermes, and finally, the only god with the strongest sense of disobedience, god of war Kratos. Speaking of which, did you just mention Athena, the goddess of war and mental retardation? Nothing wrong, you must be wrong. Master Kui has seen everything in his life. It can be said that he has experienced many battles, but this is the first time he has seen such a battle. The strong man in his early 2 meters curled up in his seat and looked at the surroundings full of little lolly. I always feel a kind of embarrassment that I can't explain clearly. Zeus didn't care if Mrs. Kui was embarrassed or not. She stood up and knocked on the table, and said in a loud voice, mild voice, today is the first meeting of the gods, and there is nothing to say. The main thing is to talk about it first. There will be a meeting on the, street of every month. Don't be absent at that time, otherwise points will be deducted. If you fail the score at the end of the year, it will be recorded as a minor demerit. 3 minor demerits will be replaced by a major demerit. 3 major offenses are replaced by serious warnings, and after serious warnings, you will be fined to clean all the sanitation up and down Mount Olympus. Did you hear that? I heard it. All the little lollies replied in unison. Kratos, why don't you speak? Zeus glanced at Kratos. There must be a collective spirit. You have to say something when everyone responds. Come on, answer me once. Did you hear? I heard. Master Kui's voice was so small that he couldn't hear it himself. Well, that's good. Now that everyone understands, let's do it like this from now on. Today, because there's nothing to say, we're disbanded. Disbanded, let's all go back and do our own work. Zeus knocked on the table again. In the future Mount Olympus, please take care of each other. No problem. Tang Yuan had been listening outside the great temple, and when it was over, Kratos came out step by step. He almost laughed out loud when he saw the expression on Master Kui's face. Old Kui, you have today too. It turns out that Kratos, who is fearless and fearless, also has weaknesses. This guy can't do anything with a little girl, It's really a joke in the world. To be continued. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.